So this is going to be for feedback. I don't want you to think about what's this person's body language like, what's his voice like. When you're listening to a speaker, I don't want you to dissect every individual component, because then you're not looking at them as a whole. Just listen to them speak, and at the end of it, think, what stuck out for me? What did I like about them? And then you just write that down in the plus column. And then if you think about something that's really annoying you, like maybe I'm moving around too much or my voice is too quiet, then you're just going to write that on the minus column. So let's say Dominic walks up, you write Dominic, plus minus, as he's talking, take notes down. When Dominic's done, we'll take a minute just to wrap up all our notes. I'll come give Dominic some feedback, and then I'll ask every single one of you to share that as well. Cool? All right. So I'm going to decide. Dominic, you're going to go first anyway. That's fine. We're going to make you go first. I'm just going to talk for a bit. I just want to get a sense of how you'll give feedback. Can we just do that real quick? Just because if there's terrible feedback, you give it to me, not him. Is that all right? Okay. Someone give me a topic they'll talk about. Just some BS. Olympics. Okay. All right. So give me a round of applause as if I'm just coming on stage, all right? Thank you, thank you. I love Olympics. There's so many types of sports in Olympics. Yeah, I like that one, where they throw the spear thing, and the one where they come in, what's the thing where they jump over with the back like that. I like that. What else do I like about the Olympics? Well, I'm from Pakistan. We never win anything, so that's why I never watch it. But yeah, that's, yeah. Okay, pause here. Thank you for listening to my inspirational speech. Feedback. What do you think?
It was okay.
You're really holding back there.
Well, right off the bat, the hesitation with the was pretty evident.
I feel there was a lot of figures, but then you can definitely work on that to cut down on work on that.
And just think that you need to become a little bit nervous, but I felt like I could hear you.
Not articulated enough. Like not sure what it's a sport game, I'm confused.
Eye contact, not enough.
Okay.
Eye contact with the audience.
Staring at the ground the whole time. And then all of this situation, and then, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on, right? So I want to start off with a very low note. So I'm the worst speaker of the day. So anyone who comes after me is going to speak better than I do, okay? Good? All right, just so you know, that's not how I actually speak. Next thing you know, yeah, I went to one of his workshops, and this guy, I don't know. Okay, how we doing? We good? Rolling? All right, Dominic, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's give him a big round of applause. Welcome, Mr. Dominic.
Thanks, Yasser. I love that setup because that sets the bar low for me. I'm Dominic Novak. I'm a family doctor and president at the Ontario Medical Association. And today I want to talk to you about why it's a matter of life and death that you have a family doctor and that we get a family doctor for everybody in Ontario. I'm a family doc and I meet people without family doctors for every single day that I'm in practice. And just a few months ago, I was meeting someone without a family doctor, and this impacted them so severely. They came to my office without their preventions up to date. They were out of date for cancer screening. Over the last few years, they had been bouncing in and out of the emergency rooms and hospitals. They were, around 60 years or so, had a bunch of different medical conditions, but just didn't have the care that they needed in our environment that we have right now in Ontario, where people can't find a family doctor. And unfortunately, over the coming weeks afterwards, we ended up diagnosing them with an avoidable, preventable cancer diagnosis that would have been completely avoided if they had a family doctor and if they found one when they needed one. So if you have a family doctor, it means you have cancer screening done on time. It means you use the emergency department less often. It means you end up in hospital less often as well, and you actually save the system money. So as a healthcare system, we know that it's the only way to make our system sustainable is to find everybody a family doctor. And how do we get there, right? That's the big challenge we have ahead of us. and you're thinking of who's the right person, who are the right policymakers to make this happen, it really is the provincial government who has to own this problem. And it's a matter of, one, funding family practice appropriately and making it sustainable to practice family medicine and be a family doctor. We know that inflation is running away. Inflation has been 25% over the last 10 years. The fees that government pay family doctors has only risen by 6% in the same time. That's crushing my colleagues, and that's making it so that people are closing doors, and we're hearing headlines every single day almost of family doctors closing shop and people not being able to find a family doctor. That's number one. Number two, let's cut down on the administrative burden. Family doctors are telling us that they're spending 19 hours a day on unnecessary administration and paperwork. That's way too much, and we should be spending that time caring for patients. So let's focus doctors on being doctors. Let's get rid of that unnecessary administration and paperwork, and let's get back to the care. And number three, let's surround family practices with teams. And that means nurses, pharmacists, other health professionals, all working together within your family practice. Right now, only a few family practices have that, but that's one of the ways we can make family practice sustainable for everybody. So the next time you're in an overwhelmed emergency room or hospital, or can't get the care you need, think about getting a family doctor for yourself, and think about advocating to your MPP, or to Doug Ford, frankly, about why everybody needs a family doctor and why this government needs to step up and find everybody the care that they need. Thank you very much.
All right. Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
You can have a seat for just a bit. I'll bring you back up here shortly. Okay, before you consolidate your notes,
I have some notes for myself.
I'm going to ask you real quick. The first process I always have my clients go through is self-evaluation. I want to know what they think went wrong and what went right. Because based on that, maybe they had 50 filler words, and I'll say, hey, did you notice any filler words? No, I was pretty good. Now I know they can't tell. So then we have to fill that in for them. So really quickly, can I just ask you, if you had to summarize your speech in one sentence, what was the main nugget you got out of it?
The government has to step up and fix the healthcare system.
Good. Now here's the interesting thing, it might not be the same. What was your biggest takeaway?
Doctors need to focus on their practice rather than the administration work.
Okay.
For admin work, they can hire somebody.
Okay, got it. Ron, how about you?
People need to prioritize their own health and they should be looking for a family.
Okay. And by the way, it's okay if you have the same observation as somebody else. So it seems like for three of you, there were different takeaways, which is interesting. How about yourself? Same as him, okay. Chris? Teams.
Teams.
Integration.
Okay. Now, Dominic, what were you trying to get across the most?
Yeah, I was trying to make it vague enough so it resonates with a few different types of folks.
Okay.
And it was, find yourself a family doctor and advocate to government so that they make sure everyone has a family doctor.
Got it.
And it may have been one of those catering to too many types of people situations as well.
But your topic is also very general. It
Yeah.
applies to many different types of people, so I think that's okay. For me, it was get a family doctor.
Yeah.
That was the main message that I got away from it. And just about everyone here got the main takeaway, so I think your message was ultimately successful. You'll be shocked how many people come into a 30-minute keynote, and right after it ends, I'll ask them, what was it about? What was the main message? Oh, great story. Yeah, but what was the message? Like his dad did this and they went on this bicycle ride. I'm like, yeah, but what was the message? And they'll have no idea. So his was very clear, which is fantastic. Let's start with the self-evaluation real quick. What did you think you did well? Let's only talk about that.
Yeah, I thought I was fairly to the point, succinct. I had an arc for the things I was saying.
All right.
It's stuff I'm passionate about, and I think that came through as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also a very polished speaker, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find any flaw in your delivery. The words sounded very clear, very articulate the way you spoke. And you had a clear opening, clear middle, clear end. What did you think you struggled with or you could have done better?
Yeah, so I'm coming in a bit rushed, so I think I could have varied the tonality and focused a little bit more. That was my self-feedback. But I know I try to do that a little bit more when I'm in more grounded places and not coming off of a bike ride crush here.
Right. So you felt like you had varied tonality or you didn't have?
I would have added more. I would have added more pauses and then maybe more kind of dramatization and letting people absorb a sentence, maybe repeating a sentence that I really wanted.
So let me pause you there for a sec. Let's test that out.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you felt that he could have used more pauses. Okay. What was the other thing you said?
Very tonality
Okay.
as well.
So raise your hand if you felt that he could have varied the tonality. So isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Right? When you look at yourself from what does the perfect public speaker look like?
Yeah.
And then you try breaking down every element, you'll criticize all of them. But then ultimately when you ask the audience, like, does anyone care? Not really. So
Yeah.
I can tell you, to be a better public speaker, Dominic, start up here. No one in Canada has a family doctor. You can do all that stuff. But does it call for it? You also have to think about the context. For you personally, I didn't feel like there was too much need for that. However, let's experiment. Let's see what would have happened if you did that. Some other feedback I have for you is I feel like when you're a really good public speaker, the next big jump you have to take is become a good storyteller. Because you have all the, how do I say the word? How do I use my gesture? You're way beyond that. For you, storytelling is where I think you could use a lot of work. You had what I would call a sequence of events. So this happened, this happened, this happened. And raise your hand if you felt this way, because I did. Did anyone feel a lack of emotion in there? You felt a lot of emotion? Okay, I didn't feel any emotion. Maybe I'm just a Terminator or something.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right? So I feel like when you said there's a lot of people who have this going on, a lot of people who, how about you telling me about one?
Yeah.
So I met Rhiannon and she was looking for a family doctor. She had this illness, blah. Tell me one specific person's case, because you'll find in the news as well, if you hear 12 people were injured, I don't really know these 12 people. But if you hear 6-year-old Shannon was injured because of this incident, now you're a lot more connected because it's one single person. So you can give the statistic, but then I'd like you to walk me through the story of one single person and really get me to visualize. Because when you say a lot of people, I'm not really picturing anything in my head. Does that make sense? Right? How can we get me and the audience to visualize what you're talking about? So I'd like you to come back up here, try this again. This time, just walk me through the story of one person. We're not going to do the whole thing. Just try that out.
Okay.
Let's see how it goes, okay? We're not going to give him applause for every single time. We'll do it next time. All right. So,
Hi, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about why it matters that you find a family doctor. I'm a family doctor myself, and every day I meet people, patients, who some of them haven't been able to find a family doctor for years. And a few months ago, I met one of them. Their name was Judith. I'm making that name up, by the way, for dramatic purposes. Their name was Judith, and they hadn't been able to find a family doctor for over 7 years. And in that time, they were in pain. They suffered. They struggled. They had a number of different medical diagnoses. They were getting up there in age. They were still working, but their health was taking a toll on them. And because they hadn't been able to find a family doc, they were bouncing in and out of emergency rooms and hospitals. They had a number of specialist visits, but no one to really pull together the picture and pull together the story. And because of that, when they did end up in my office later on, just recently, we updated their cancer screening and actually found an avoidable, preventable cancer diagnosis. And we know that this changed their life forever. And it was something that they could have avoided completely.
just pause here. Can we see the difference? When it's one single story, did you feel it when you said it?
Yeah, linger on that person.
Linger
I introduced them before, but I think I just
Yeah, it's like,
on going.
oh, she's one of those people and you got rid of her ASAP.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd recommend is add some dialogue in there. So it doesn't have to be dialogue between two people, but what was her internal dialogue like?
Yeah.
What was she thinking? What was her frustration? So you could say she would sit at night and think, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of this.
Yeah.
I don't think and now immediately you're imagining. Did anyone picture the story in their head just now when he was saying it? Give me a quick hand raise if you did. Okay. So if you're getting them to visualize something, that means your storytelling is working. Let's add some more dialogue. Just rewind a little bit of that story and tell me what she was thinking in your head.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's
Yeah.
try that.
I remember her coming to my waiting room, and when I met her for the first time, she had this look that told me she was up all night thinking about the visit and thinking about what she missed during those last 7 years where she couldn't find a family doctor. And I bet she was thinking, what is he going to find?
What did she say to you?
What is he going to find? What is my health going to look like after this visit? What did I miss through not having a family doctor for so long? What is my family going to say after this diagnosis? And then after that diagnosis, I imagine that she was saying the same kind of things as many people who have avoidable cancer diagnoses of why me? Why now? Why didn't we have
Okay,
a
pause
system
here for-
that worked for her?
Can you picture her in your head now? Can you picture the dire situation she's in? Now, one of the brilliant things he's doing right now in any good story, the conflict has to be the strongest part of the story. What a lot of people do is they introduce the character, and yeah, a little bit of a problem, but let's just jump to the solution right away. What you're doing now is you're digging a pit for her, and then when you introduce your solution, the bigger the pain, the bigger the payoff.
Yeah.
So you're really digging and showing it how bad the situation was, and then you'll introduce it. I like this a lot. Let's now add in those pauses and that vocal variation. We'll do the same story again. Let's see how that impacts it, okay? This is all an experiment.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember when she was in my office and we made that cancer diagnosis. And she thought, what if I had a family doctor 7 years ago? Would this have happened? And I had to look at her and say, you know what? These are things that we regularly screen for in a family doctor's office and easily preventable. And I'm sorry this had to happen for you. And we have a healthcare system that's failing so many people, just like Jordan. I don't remember which name I chose.
Judith.
Judith, yeah. 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 I can go. Do you want me to
Keep going.
Yeah. And as I think about so many people that walk in my office with those feelings of why me? Why isn't the system working for me? I've done my part for society. Why isn't society taking care of me? I think of all those faces, all of those lives that are impacted by the crisis we have in healthcare that starts with not being able to find a family doctor, just like it did for Judith.
How'd that sound, folks? Chris is like, yeah, that sounded pretty good. Give her a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Stay here for a sec. Let's try the vocal variation just because it's a theory of yours. I want to test it out.
Yeah.
Do you have a different topic you could talk about? Because this one's a more serious one, something that allows you more range.
Yeah. You know what? I have one that like.
Okay, let's try just the range and let's see how you do there, okay?
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is really high highs, really low lows.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Make this one short, like 60 seconds.
Okay. When people meet me, they describe me as an impatient, relentless optimist. You probably thought I was going to say something else as that third one. And what I define as optimism is realism, but also hope. And realism means acknowledging these are challenging times for people and challenging times in society. And in healthcare, that means hospitals and emergency rooms are overwhelmed. 1 in 5 people can't find a family doctor. That's soon to be 1 in 4 unless we act now. And people can't get the care they need. That's realism. But there's also hope. And hope means putting forward the solutions that we know work, that are going to change that course for people, and bringing forward ideas and getting people a family doctor, surrounding those family doctors with support so that they find it sustainable to practice in Canada, and getting people the care that they need. That's what hope is for me. So optimism is realism and hope.
All right, let's start there.
Yeah.
Let me get a quick gauge. How do we feel about the variation?
Really liked it. I feel like I preferred this one more than the first one just because of the
Variation, yeah.
My feedback for the first one would have been I struggled to hear you a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's because it's quite you become overly excited about the subject, whereas with this one I can feel the excitement.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. Anyone else?
Loved it.
Loved it. What did you like about it?
The energy, like the message, the way it was delivered, everything was
Yeah.
So the ups and downs and emotions sounds like it's working quite well.
Yeah.
So was it more interesting when he was doing it this way? How did you feel about it?
I like the previous speech better.
I know you.
I don't know
Yeah.
maybe the content, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's my humble 2 cents.
Was it the story or the way he said it?
Probably the story. Okay. Because for me, content first and then the rest comes after.
Yeah. So the first one was a bit more personal with the story. This one was a bit more abstract, it sounds like. Yeah.
And the more abstract it is, the easier it is to forget too.
Yeah.
So for me as well, the first one.
I like the second one better.
Okay.
The reason is the first one, as polished as it was, it almost sounded like a sales pitch to me. It was very robotic, although there was a lot of nuances to it. But the second one was it felt wholesome and just natural. That's the way I perceive it.
Thank you.
I prefer the first one. After a couple of tries that we did here, is because towards the end you did give a personal touch about your patient, and there was a bit of a high and low there too, but not to the extreme that it's gonna. I could picture myself or somebody in that particular situation, but
Yeah.
It's more relatable with the story. Yeah.
And again, Dominic, your public speaking is phenomenal. There's not a whole lot to change there. Another thing that you can just use is the word imagine. Because the moment you say, imagine this, you're this woman who has this condition and you have nowhere to go. What's the first thing we do? We imagine something in her head, instantly into a story. So that's an easy bridge for you. And the last question I wanted to ask you is, I'm sitting here, but for me, I'm having a tough time hearing you.
Yeah.
And you're a tall guy. You don't sound like someone who is struggling to get your voice across. Can you do me a quick favor? Just put your hand, one on your chest, one on your belly, and don't change the way you breathe at all. Just keep it there.
Yeah.
Which rises more?
This one, for sure.
This. So you are breathing from your belly.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you take a deep enough breath when you speak?
I could do better. I did better the second go around, but I could incorporate that volume into the first one as well.
Let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's finish off with that. Just take a deep breath. Give me 30 seconds of the opening of the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try that. Just volume, that's the focus.
Yeah. Today, I want to talk to you about why it matters everyone has a family doctor and why you should find one yourself. I'm a family doctor myself, and every day I meet people who struggle getting the care they need. And I remember meeting Judith a few months ago. And Judith was someone who hadn't been able to find a family doctor for over 7 years. And in those 7 years, she was bouncing around hospitals and emergency rooms, trying to get health care, but meanwhile, not getting it and suffering for it. And I remember meeting her in my waiting room.
And stop here. Can we tell he's louder?
Yeah.
Chris, your head is so, I love it because I can get instant feedback. Like, I like that a lot. Did you feel the voice?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So if you can speak like that as your baseline, and then dip it when you talk about something emotional, I think you can have that range. So just naturally raise up your volume a little.
So start with louder rather than trying to raise and lower at the same time.
I wouldn't say start louder because then you'll jolt the audience. Today I'm going to talk about it, right? So, hey, my name is this. And one thing that I really want to share, so you naturally go up, and then you dip up and down, up and down. But overall, phenomenal work. Storytelling is where I feel like you should spend most of your attention. Otherwise, fantastic.
Yeah.
Give them a round of applause, folks. Please.
Yeah, so thank you.
And I'm going to incorporate some things that you'll see in the next few speakers that I want you to take away. There's an exercise I have people do full range. It's a really funny one. So if any of you, does anyone struggle with a monotone voice? You can just talk like this the entire time. Okay, so we might try an exercise like that. All right, any other feedback from him before we move on?
I need a doctor.
You need a what? A family doc? Okay, well, get in touch with him, he'll find you one. Well, Chris, since you said something, why don't you come up here and talk? Right, let's bring it up for Chris. Chris, come on up.
Okay, so.
So we've all gone out to dinner, whether it's with friends, family, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever it is. We all sit down at the table, check out the menus, and what do you think most of us do? Now, what do most of us do? Who here will go to their cell phone and start checking? Pretty safe to say yes. So we sit there with our family and our friends or our partners, and sometimes both partners will be on their cell phones, or sometimes family members will be on it, and one person's sitting there maybe waiting to engage in some sort of conversation. But nothing happens because one person or everybody at the table is so immersed into their smartphone. And all of a sudden, something happens within the restaurant. Some sort of ruckus or altercation between a customer and a server. And some people don't even notice what's happening. No different than when we walk down here, and I used to live in Toronto. I live outside of Toronto, a good 4 hours out now. And I'm observing people as I'm stuck in traffic for 2 hours trying to get here. And I'm watching how many people are on their cell phones while they're walking and not paying attention to the traffic or their surroundings. My name is Chris Mandigma, and I'm a law enforcement instructor. I train police officers, I train military operators, and one of the biggest subject matters that I teach them to start off with is called situational awareness. Situational awareness is about being aware of what is around you, what is involved in your current situation, even with us sitting here in this room, and some of us might be aware of the traffic that's moving behind us and that bus that's stopped and all these people getting out. And the lack of situational awareness that has happened now, as you can see where people are walking around like zombies with their head down into their cell phone, they're not aware of the environment anymore. And then that's why people get hit by vehicles or people walk into telephone poles. And the big problem now is because people are not situationally aware of their environment, it poses a hazard to them. And more specifically to the police officers that I teach, when they're not paying attention to their environment, that's when something happens or someone ambushes them or attacks them. And for example, one of the incidents that happened quite a ways back out in Ottawa, it was an unfortunate incident. A police officer was sitting in his vehicle, and while he was sitting in his vehicle, writing notes and so forth, his window was down. And an individual approached his vehicle. This was late at night, and unbeknownst to the officer sitting in the vehicle, the individual approached them and stabbed him in the neck and didn't see it coming. And for whatever reason, whatever the officer was doing, maybe he had music on, maybe he was writing his notes and his head was down, or he was typing something on his computer inside his vehicle. He wasn't aware of his surroundings in a low-lit area. Okay, so he may have been coming from an incident where his mind was still on the previous incident, the call of service that he was dealing with. But that being said, this is where situational awareness becomes important. But I don't just teach this to police officers and emergency first responders. I also teach it to civilians. And this is why I wanted to talk about this subject with all of you, because it impacts everybody. And if there's a takeaway that I would like you to walk away with after this seminar, is when you leave out there, is to be attentive, be in the moment of your surroundings. When you're walking to your vehicle, because it'll be 9:30 p.m. at night and you're going to the parking lot, be aware of who's around the vehicle, who's hanging around in the alleyway over there, and just be cognizant that, are they a potential threat? How will it impact you before you get into your vehicle? Is it safe for you to get into your vehicle at that moment, or should you be looking for some sort of nearby assistance, let's say a Toronto police officer nearby? That is the takeaway for situational awareness. I hope that would be helpful for you moving forward as you walk the streets. Thank you.
Well done, well done. Have a seat.
Okay.
Have a seat, have a seat. We'll discuss for a bit.
Whew.
Okay, how are we feeling?
Well,
Yeah.
nerve-wracking.
That's funny considering what you do for a living, right?
Yeah, it's different.
It is.
Yeah.
I was listening to an interview by one of the WWE stars, The Undertaker, and he was like,
Yeah.
I have no issue in front of 80,000 people pretending
That's
to be
it.
a character, but if I'm speaking to 10 people, I start sweating.
that's
so
it.
I totally get you. Now, Dominic, real quick, what was the single takeaway, one sentence from his speech?
Be situationally aware. It's about like that.
Beautiful. So was that your...
Yes.
Okay, so that means the message got across. The single most important goal of communication is to send a message, and you have achieved that. Congratulations. Now let's do a quick self-evaluation. What went well? Let's only talk about the good things first, and then we'll talk about the challenging things.
From watching what you do online and trying to incorporate that, was getting rid of filler words and taking more pauses to emphasize certain points.
Okay.
That was something that I focused or had to focus on quite a bit.
How did you feel you did up here right now?
I think a lot better than the way I would typically
Okay. That means
present.
when the videos are working. Good. Did we detect any abundance of filler words when he was speaking? No? Okay. Did we detect pauses? Yeah, okay, good. So that means everyone else felt that as well. So that was good. Anything else that was good?
Eye communication.
Okay,
Yes, I'll have a tendency to look down.
okay. I didn't see you do that at all. Like, okay, very good.
It was again something that, because of learning what you're doing and the tips that you give, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, try to focus
It's
on
also,
this.
you're talking about being attentive, and then you're making eye contact with everyone, so it's on theme. I like that.
Yeah.
So you had good eye contact, no fillers, pauses. What else did you do well?
Oh yeah. That's all. That's all. I got.
That's fun. That's fun. And what did you think you didn't do well or could have improved?
I think the fluidity of the content.
Okay. can
It's
you
not.
break
It's not something I'm used to delivering within this crowd.
Okay.
And you hit it right on the point. I'm certainly not used to delivering in front of this number of people.
Yeah.
I could. Brene Brown said it exactly. She could go in front of thousands of people and not have an issue.
Yeah.
And I won't have an issue with that either. But as soon as the crowd gets smaller, all of a sudden, and the pressure is different.
Very intimate.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Got it. So fluidity of content, a little bit of anxiety then, is that
Yes.
what you're saying? Okay, got
Yes.
it. Which is normal, by the way. Like, I'm nervous right now, right? My reputation's on the line. I better do a good job. You think I'm writing anything right now? I'm just pretending. Okay, so fluidity of content, anxiety. What else could you have improved? Anything else?
No, that was the big thing that stood out for me.
Okay.
Was it just wasn't my normal fluidity when I deliver.
So does that mean you were going all over the place? There was no structure? What do you mean by fluidity?
Not necessarily going all over the place. I think it was more of the structure within the time constraint and using various teaching aids that I would typically have.
Gotcha. So no teaching aids, you were doing it by yourself,
Yes.
right? You were by yourself. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let me just test that out. He mentioned feeling anxious. Raise your hand, and by the way, be completely transparent, otherwise it doesn't help him. Raise your hand if you could tell he was nervous. Isn't that interesting, right? So most of us can't tell. It's so internal, and our mind is filled with all this fluff. We think everyone can tell, no one can tell. I couldn't tell. In fact, you reminded me of Jocko Willink.
Oh, yeah?
When you stepped on stage, like, wow, this guy is a figure of authority. You sound like someone who's worked with the military before. So you came across very confident to me personally.
Thank you.
Let's start off with some feedback. I've got some specific notes for you.
Yes.
Rohan, anything you noticed about his speech that he could have improved?
Probably just say like the way that you have a waving his tone, like matching with his emotion, and he's sending a strong message, and you could just like be a little bit more like emphasizing that a little bit more.
Got it. So I'll take a note out of what Dominic was recommended, where a little bit more range. I'll have you do that just in a little bit. Okay, so range is good. And Dominic, anything from you?
I think remove the first story, jump to the second story right away. As soon as you said that second story, it gave you that presence of what you do in your day-to-day life. And it's, oh shit, that happened. This is why it happened. Right? Versus the phone one, it was kind of like,
I 100% agree with that. So let me break down how I perceived it, then I'll check in with the rest of you as well. You started off great because you started off with the story right away.
Yeah.
However, I don't know what the point of that story was. I think the point was that everyone's on their phone, and you said, what's everyone doing at dinner?
Yeah.
I did not think it was going to be people on their phone, right? He's nodding his head too. I was like, I don't know, ordering dessert first. Like, well, where are you going with this? And when you said it, like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Right.
The other thing is, you're asking the audience to admit something a little vulnerable about themselves. So let's say you have no idea who I am, and I came up here and said, raise your hand if you've ever cheated on someone. Who's going to raise their hand? Even if they have, they're not going to, right? So you have to first start by being a little bit vulnerable about yourself, and then people will get permission. Gotcha. So you could say, I remember I used to be at the dinner table, my wife would say, hey, put your phone away. Why is your phone always on the table? And since then, I've never done it. Now, be honest, anyone like me here who's done the same thing?
Right.
You're going to get a lot more hands raised.
Okay.
Just because you were vulnerable first.
Gotcha.
What happens is when you go straight into the message, if I don't trust you at that point, it sounds like you're beating up on me. Like, oh, everyone's on their phone all the time. Everyone at dinner's on the phone. And if I'm doing that, I'm like, I don't need some random guy telling me what to do. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
So admit the vulnerability first, then go into the lesson.
Okay.
That being said, I agree with Dominic's advice. That second story was so strong. If you just started off with 5 years ago, there was a police officer sitting in his car, I can't help but wonder, where's this going to go? Where's the story going? I'd be in there. So I would, if you were to do this again, I'd have you flesh out that story more. Some things to avoid in a story, and Dominic, when you try stories, try this too. Don't tell me how I'm going to feel about the story. So if you said, I'm going to tell you an incident, it was an unfortunate incident, now I know what's going to happen already.
Okay.
It takes away the suspense of it.
Yes.
Whereas if you just told me and it eventually happened, then I would have emotionally been more present in there. I also agree with Rohan when he said emotional variation. The thing about emotion is, whatever you want the audience to feel, you have to feel. It's very hard for me to feel excited or sad if you don't feel that way, because you are giving me that emotion. So if you want me to feel about everything, then you're just going to be flat the entire time.
Okay.
So I'm going to have you come up here one more time. I'm going to give you a really silly exercise. You'll have to go with me here. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to get you up here, and I'm going to stand in the back. I'm going to give you 2 gestures. This is going to be as enthusiastic as you can. So like you just won the lottery. Rohan, I think you've seen this exercise, right? So I'm going to do this, and you'll be like, oh my God, yeah, so I was doing this, X, Y, Z. Then I'll do this, and you become really quiet. So someone try this out on me, okay? I'm going to talk about what I ate in the morning. Someone do this and that. Rohan, can you do that? Okay. So start from here. I'm going to start normal, and then do this or that, but give me like 10 seconds in between, all right? So I woke up in the morning, I was really, really hungry. I wanted to eat something, and I was so hungry that I opened the fridge, and the only thing I found there was ice cream. But I can't start the day with ice cream, can I? It's really strange to start with that much sugar. See what I'm saying? Up, down, up, down. So it's going to be silly, but it'll really get you out of your range.
Okay.
Can we try that?
Try it.
Now, I want you to say the same thing again, just because I don't want you to think about the next thing in your head. Just look at me and my gestures. Let's just see how high and low we can get the range, okay?
Okay.
All right. This is going to be a bit silly, but let's give him a round of applause, folks.
That's it.
All right. I'm going to start with no expression, and then I'm going to go from here to there, okay? And the audience, just look at him, don't look at me.
So I've been quite guilty of being on my phone quite a bit, and even my partner had said, why are you on your phone all the time? And I'm like, oh, I just got to check this email, and babe, just bear with me for a second, give me a couple minutes. I just got to get this email out. And once I get this email done, then I can give you my undivided attention, and you can talk about your day and everything that you enjoy, but I just need to get this email out, and then I'll be good, and the stress is off. Okay? Is that all right with you? Does that work for you? Man, this is tough.
It's tough. Did we see a change? Yes or no? Yeah? Is it better than last time? Let's keep going. So if you feel uncomfortable, which I know you do,
Yeah.
that means you're growing.
Okay.
Keep doing what you're doing. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's
This
do
feels
it.
so unnatural.
It's going to be unnatural. You're trying it out for the first time. Don't worry about it. Imagine you're learning salsa for the first time and you have no idea what you're doing. That's exactly what's happening with you right now.
Gotcha.
Okay? Let's continue from where you left off. But as I'm doing this, that means keep going higher. Keep going higher. So louder and more expressive with your body. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So as I've sent off the email, are you okay with that? Okay, great. You're okay with that. So, what do you want to get for dinner? What you want to get? What do you feel like tonight? Pasta. I'm not feeling pasta. Are you sure you want pasta? Earlier you said that you wanted the fried chicken and the fries. Like I was so excited when you said fried chicken and fries. Like, oh yeah, totally. And then now you want pasta? No, I'm not feeling that. I mean, if that's what you want to get, fine. We can get the pasta, whatever makes you happy. How about you, Aris? Did you feel like pasta as well?
Sure.
Shrimp! I love shrimp. Shrimp is actually one of my favorite things. You know what? I'll take shrimp. You know what?
All right, pause here. Range-wise, great. We can tell a difference, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's bring it into the speech. Let's not go into the passion of the shrimp. Do the speech again, this time with this variation.
With pasta and shrimp?
No. The story that you just told about the cop in the car.
Oh, okay.
Try that. Actually, no, not the cop in the car, because you can't say, so he was in the car, and
Yeah.
you can't quite do that. Try the first story again with the emotional variation.
Okay.
Okay? Let's try. I'm not going to give you any signals anymore. You do it yourself.
Okay. So I walk into the restaurant with my friends, and as we're sitting in the restaurant, we all take a seat, server sits us down, and I've been quite guilty of this. I don't know about you guys, But I've been guilty of it because my other friends have said it. Chris, you're always on your phone. So of course I have to reflect on that. And I don't think I'm on my phone a lot. But that being said, I'm a business person, so I do have to check my emails. I got to respond to emails and so forth. But my friends aren't happy, which is why sometimes they don't like hanging out with me. And I start to wonder, why doesn't anybody want to go to dinner anymore? So I had to make a change. I spoke to my therapist, Judith. Judith, I don't get this. I don't understand this. Why doesn't my friends want to go out with me? They say that I'm on my phone a lot. I don't think so. What do you think? Of course, she tries to give me some sort of clinical response, and I'll say to her, Judith, I've been working with you for 3 years. Tell me at a personal level.
Okay, pause here for now. How is this baseline volume? Jeez, right? Did you feel it?
Yes.
Right? Way louder.
Yeah.
Now, did it feel more uncomfortable this time than the first time?
Less.
Less, right?
Less.
Did you feel less anxious this time compared to the first
Less.
time? It was like a 5-minute difference.
Yeah.
Right? So, two things. One is you always experience the most amount of anxiety right at the start, then it just gradually goes away.
Right.
And then with your volume, the moment you get out of that initial shell and you see what's possible, then you no longer have a problem with it. Because when I was doing it before, like, oh, I feel weird. And then I stepped away and now you're just doing it yourself.
Right.
So then you know you can do it now, right?
Yes.
Anything else we noticed? I didn't ask you last time. What did we notice this time that we didn't notice last time?
I think it was like we tried to connect with the audience too.
Yes. Yes. And you, when you said that vulnerable part, where I've done it too.
Right.
Did anyone feel more connection to him as a person, right? He wasn't just someone lecturing you about being on your phone, which, let's be honest, all of us have been lectured by somebody about it. And, oh, he's been through it as well. He understands where I'm coming from. He's giving me good advice. So I like that. How about yourself? What did you notice?
I liked it.
You liked it?
Thanks, Eric.
I'm cool.
About something that went wrong, but I don't know. I think it was fun.
It was good. Okay, so
Thank you.
big improvement on the anxiety bit.
Thank you.
Big improvement on the vocal fluctuation. The only thing is, this doesn't really matter, but you didn't really make eye contact with me at all. I think, I don't know, maybe these people are better looking, but give me some eye contact too, spread it out this side.
Okay.
The reason I say it because sometimes you'll be at a venue where a lot of people are here and maybe
Yes.
a couple of people here and you'll just completely avoid them and just talk here. Make sure to spread out the love a little bit. Dominic did that really well. He looked at every single person as he was talking. Try to implement a little bit more of that. Some other feedback for you. When you tell a story, you're a very logical person, I can tell.
Yeah.
You tell a story that's a sequence of events,
Yes.
not so much as an emotional retelling of what happened.
Right.
So I want you to try that the second story, but make me imagine everything that's happening. Make me feel what might be happening in that situation.
Okay.
Okay, it's going to be a little challenging, but your only goal is I want them to picture what I'm saying. So let's try the cop story again. Baseline, higher volume, just focus on imagery. Okay, let's try. And please look at me as well.
Yes.
All right.
Quite a number of years ago, when we're talking about situational awareness, there was an officer that was sitting in his vehicle. Now, I want you to picture this. It's late at night. It's in an alleyway. You have a police cruiser that's parked inside the alleyway, alone, no other vehicles, it's quiet, and you've got one lone officer sitting inside the vehicle, window is down, and whatever the circumstances were happening inside the vehicle, whether he had his music on or whether the vehicle was running and the air conditioner was up on high and couldn't hear the ambient noise around him, someone, an unknown person, had approached his vehicle. And this person who had approached his vehicle all of a sudden attacked and stabbed the officer in the neck. When you are sitting inside that vehicle and all of a sudden you look to your left and there's a figure standing right at your window with a fast motion towards your face, how do you think you would have felt when you would be in that situation? And the reason why I bring this up is because we can't respond fast enough in that type of circumstances, especially when we're not situationally aware, because we weren't able to hear what was around us. or maybe see around us because of poor lighting, reflections, shadows, and so forth. And then now we have this unfortunate incident where the officer lost his life.
All right, pause. How was that compared to last time? Good? Give him a round of applause, folks. That was really good.
Thank you.
This very, very good. Have a seat.
Sir, thank you. Appreciate it.
What you also did really well, FYI, is you told a story and you made a point. Every time you tell a story before you give the message away, it just lands much better. So you told us that story and then you wrapped it up and you talked about awareness. I love that. Overall, work on your voice fluctuation, baseline higher volume, and more imagery. I think you'll be
Great. Thank you.
very, very well done.
Appreciate it.
Okay, who's my next victim? Let's have a look. Let's see. Aris, I think we got to bring you up.
Yes.
Let's give Aris a big round of applause, folks. Take the stage, my friend.
Good evening, everybody. So I understand you guys all have your B2B SaaS and you're trying to get to $10 million. I'll tell you the story of Rob. Rob actually was living down the street. I started working with him in 2008. So we started his business. He was just by himself. And then in 2022, a couple of years ago, essentially, he sold it for $385 million. So I don't know if that's exciting to you, but I'm going to tell you how we helped them with that. So every single one of his clients that we had to fly into their offices. So we had to go to the States, we had to go to Europe, we had to go to Asia to convince the client because he or she had never heard of his business. You can imagine how much he had to spend on sales, travels, accommodation, flights, and all that. So that's what's really expensive. It's expensive. But that was pre-pandemic. Now, every single one of you, if you have a large sales team, if you spend a lot of money on travels, if you spend a lot of money on acquisition, it could be Facebook ad, YouTube ad, whatever the case may be. The good news is that post-pandemic, you can avoid all of that. You can step into a room and have your prospect know about you already. And the best way to do it is basically through content. So what I mean by content is really simple. You don't have to be a public speaker. You don't have to, be an actor. You could just tell your story as simple as, how you started, the problem that you solved, and even tell the story of each and every one of your clients. You don't have to be selling at all. You could just talk to the camera, and that's how you can have clients come to you, find out about you, and not having to spend on, again, sales, team, travel, and that's how you become a superstar.
All right.
What?
Round of applause.
Yeah.
Have a seat for a quick second. Valued that one. All right. I think I might be the only target audience for his message here because I have a B2B business and I run ads, so it resonated with me, sure enough.
Okay.
But let me ask you, what was the single takeaway from the talk?
Just about promoting his business.
Okay. A little shaky, we can tell, right? Dominic?
It was about how to storytell to get my business success.
Right. Okay. If you have to ask.
So what?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, sure. That's the best. Okay. So we got some work to do in the message just to make it more
Absolutely.
clear. How about yourself? What was your biggest message?
So my first take was when you said B2B, not everyone would understand what that is, so maybe just break it down a little bit more, and then just following that story through.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's do a quick evaluation, Aris. What went well? What did you do well?
The story, I had no story structure.
That was well?
Sorry?
That
Oh, went well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, wow.
Went well.
I don't want to hear the bad things then.
I made contact, I think, with the audience.
Okay.
Left to right.
Okay.
That's one. I think that's it.
Okay. You didn't have a panic attack, so that's a +2, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay, eye contact. And then what was challenging? What you could have improved?
You know what? I had the story in my head, but as I was speaking, it disappeared. So I probably need to work on, the story and not want, because my message was not so much to sell my services, it was just to let them understand the importance of content for themselves. But I don't think it came across as that. Yeah.
Okay, so the message didn't come across. You said
I think
story got diluted there. And have you told the story before?
Not in a speech,
Okay. Got it.
conversation one-on-one, but
So a bit more structure. Got it. Anything else you can think of?
that went wrong.
Yeah.
The end, definitely the end was just too dry, I would think.
Abrupt, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So the good news is it's a very easy fix. Everything you mentioned right now, it's not going to take us a lot of time. The biggest difference you have compared to everyone else is that you didn't have any material. So I'm also going to take that into consideration. You have an amazing voice. I don't know if anyone noticed, but when you speak, you immediately command attention. You walk up here like I own like a $10 million business. Maybe it's a suit, I don't know, but you walked up here and said, I want to listen to this guy. I don't know what he has to say, but I want to listen to him. So I like when you showed up. However, when you came here, I couldn't help but feel, and by the way, you're going to make YouTube videos, so most of this doesn't really matter. But when you came up here, you kind of just stood in the same spot the entire time. It was almost like you were stuck to the floor. Yeah. I didn't see any movement. Did anyone else notice any movement? No, right? So it's like you were stuck here, and I see this a lot in people who they're mortified of public speaking. They're so scared they just stay exactly there until they're done. I don't think you were that nervous. Maybe you were.
I was not nervous about the crowd. It was more so the story. I knew I had to freestyle it. Like I didn't have the structure.
So unprepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not so much the audience, to be honest.
Got it. So what I would have done is just use more of the stage instead of planting yourself one way. But in terms of the story, I like how you started with the story right away. You were telling me about someone who had built a $300 million business and sold it. For me, I was like, man, I want to get to that level. How do I do that? But then when you talked about content, I didn't see the connection between the two. You know, I was like, did he use content to build that business and sell it, or what happened? It sounded like two different talks. If I were to redo this for you, what I would have done is you start off with that character, and when you get to the point where his business starts to do well, then you insert content as a solution. So he was doing XYZ, wasn't working. He met me, I told him to do this thing. He made content, and then 5 years later, he sold his business for $300 million. So now we know what was the solution? The content. So now if you don't want to do sales, you don't want to do outreach, go make more content. Message is clear, story is clear. Does that make sense? Yes. So I'd like you to come up here and try this one more time. I'm going to give you a structure this time that'll make it easy. Your message is make more content for more credibility. What was it?
Yeah, so that's probably the problem too.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in essence, yes. Make more content. You have inbound leads. You don't have to reach out to them, and it's easy. You can just tell your story without trying to sell. Yeah.
Okay, so we can say all that in 4 words: more content, more credibility, and then you can say more sales.
Yes.
Right. So 6 words there.
Yes. Yes.
Or more content, more sales. For now, let's just play with that.
Okay.
So your message of the speech is more content, more sales. You're going to start off by telling us about this friend of yours, but start off when he wasn't doing really well.
Okay.
Tell us about that. Then he met you. You told him something. Eventually sold the business for this much. Then I learned more content, more sales. If you want to get more sales, make more content. Okay. Let's see if the structure feels better this time. Okay. All right.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. One more round of applause.
Good evening. Let me tell you the story of. Let me tell you the story of Rob. So Rob was a software developer. He started his B2B, essentially business to business SaaS, which is software as a service, just like a bunch of different software that we use today. Essentially, it's a software that helps you solve a problem. So he started by himself. He was when his business started growing, he essentially had to hire sales team. He essentially had to travel the world to go convince his prospect, and then when he gets there, say he gets to California, he had the prospect doesn't know who who he was, who the company was. So there was a lot of friction, and then I was, sales cycles was long, spending a lot of money on travels. So when he mentioned that to me, that he was spending a lot of time, money with his staff, I gave him my 2 cents on how we can go around it. So I told him, hey, you could just tell your story about the problem you solve for your prospect. You could tell the story about how you run your business. You could just it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes on LinkedIn, because that's where your audience is. You don't have to spend on ad or anything like that. And then naturally and gradually, he started having more leads. He started having more folks reach out to him and ask him about doing business with him. And a couple of years later, actually about 10 years later, he ended up selling his business for $385 million. And now he's retired and having a good time in the other side of the world.
End with a message. What's the message?
I know the message, but I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate it in the end.
Story was great. What's the takeaway? What should the audience do?
So you guys are all business owners. You guys all spend, I'm sure, a lot of money on acquisition. It could be Facebook, Google, YouTube ad, or you have a big sales team. I'm not saying stop it. All I'm just saying is you could take, 10 minutes every single day, shoot a little video, put it on YouTube, and the more content you have, the more inbound leads you're going to have, and the more inbound leads, they're going to know, like, and trust you before you talk to them, and that's money in the bank, and it's going to be easier sell for you to close.
How is this compared to the first one? Way better, right? So clear structure, clear message. I want to try the same exercise that I did on Chris. You already have a great voice. Just now when you set the message, did anyone else feel more energy when he was saying that last bit, right? I just want to try the story again. I'm just going to give you those prompts. Let's see you break out of that shell a little bit, okay?
Okay. Prompts again is for high-low
yes,
voice.
High,
Okay,
high, low, and not just volume, but just sheer expression.
Got it.
Keep your body as well. All right. And I'm not too concerned about the story for this one. I just want to see range, all right?
Okay.
All right. Start, and then I'll give you indication.
So let me tell you the story of Rob. Rob was actually in Toronto. He started his business in late 2008. Late 2008. He was by himself. He was really depressed because he had to run the business, do the programming, run his sales team. And then he had to travel. He had to spend a lot of money on travels. He had to have his team do a lot of outreach, which was really tough, which was really difficult. He couldn't focus on what he had to do. He was really distracting. And he had to go out and hire people every single time because there was a lot of people quitting, leaving, turn around, and he had to suffer from that pain. But luckily, he was able to turn it around by putting out content online, which was easy for him because he had no issues talking about his life, talking about his business, talking about his evolution, which came natural to him. And he ended up being able to sell his business for $385 million. So if he did it, I'm sure every single one of you can do it.
All right, how was that? Way better. So you have, can you notice, Chris, everyone has it in there. Like everyone has the range, it's just being able to get out of your shell. You can have a seat, I'll give you a couple more pointers.
Thank you.
Really, really well done.
Yep.
I feel like, does anyone else need storytelling in their work? Dominic, you could probably use it. Chris, I think you could use it. Write down the structure. Next time you tell a story, this has served me really well. I learned it from my coach, Craig Valentine. He's the world champion of public speaking, so he knows a thing or two about how to write a story. So what I do is, with this format, I write one single sentence for each one of these components, and I just read those 5 things, and then I expand the story. The first component is circumstance. So who, what, where. So in your case, Aris, my friend was a software engineer, he was working here, and that's the circumstance. The second thing, and this is where you want to spend the most amount of your time, is the problem. What was the problem? So he was trying to get his business off the ground. He was running ads, couldn't figure out what to do. Dominic, in your situation, she was looking for a family doctor. She was coming in, couldn't find a solution. And this is where you want to dig. Like, when you think the problem's big enough, dig more and more and more. You really want the audience to think, how is this person going to get out of the situation? You want them to build that level of pain. Then you have something called the cure. The cure is not the resolution. The cure is, what secret ingredient or experience or advice did you get that started to change your life? So if you have an illness, you go to the doctor, they give you a medication, you're not immediately fixed, but now you're on track to getting fixed. So maybe someone said something to you, gave you a piece of advice. In his case, he gave someone advice and now their business blew up. What was that secret ingredient? And try not to make this yourself. So if I said, I was really depressed and things were really bad, and then one day I decided I shouldn't do this anymore, and then I was not depressed anymore and my life's great. Well, you could have done that at any other point of your life too. What's the message here? But if instead you say, well, I read this book and this book had this quote and that changed my life, now there's a process that you put forward. So always put the crown on something or somebody else. So that's the cure. Then you would talk about the resolution. What was the end result of following that cure? So I took the advice. I told my friend to make more content. I wasn't on my phone. What was the result of that? This is the opposite of the problem. Any good story, remember this, is about emotional transformation. If the main character did not change from the start of the story to the end of the story, it is not a story. It's just a sequence of events. So in your case as well, when you were telling us about your phone and how you were on the phone and now you're not on your phone, that's an emotional transformation. So you have your resolution and then you end with the message. So what do you want your audience to take away? So when this happened, I learned I have to be more aware of my surroundings. I have to make more content. I have to find a family doctor. Because the last thing is what your audience will remember the most. Arish, does that help?
100%.
Right? And by the way, this is what I use for my YouTube videos as well. If you want a shorter version of this, circumstance, conflict, solution, message. 4 points, and just try that out, okay?
Yes.
Well done, my friend, well done. We'll recap on this. Any questions on this so far? We feeling good so far? I know it's getting kind of warm in here, but bear with me, all right? Okay, we have, let's see, who else we got? All right, Rana, come on up.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Rhiannon. Nice to meet you all. Today I want to talk about my journey moving to Canada. So as you can probably tell, I am not from Canada. I am from the UK, England. A very, very rainy city called Manchester, if any of you have heard of it. No, I do not support Manchester United. I support Manchester City. Let's just get that one out of the way straight away. So I moved to Canada about a year and a half ago now, so February. So I've had one winter and 2 summers now. And what am I enjoying? What do I like about Canada? But before I go into that, I want to talk about my background. So why did I move to Canada? I moved to Canada because of work. Work reached out to me and asked if I wanted to take up an opportunity in Canada. It's promotion, so sounds great, right? But you have to move to Canada. Where? Where in Canada? Toronto. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. They said, go away, think about it, and if you're really serious about it, we can make it happen. So I went away, spoke to my friends, spoke to my family. Some were like, yeah, go for it. Others were like, no, don't go for it, we're going to miss you. But I went back to work 3 months later and I said, yeah, okay, I'm in, but under one condition. What is that one condition? The dog comes with me. Non-negotiable, my dog has got to come with me and I'll do the move. So here I am. It took about a year for my visa to come through. But after that year, I got here and here I am now. But what do I love and what do I miss about the UK? So for me, friends and family, right? That kind of goes without saying. I really, really miss my mum and dad and my friends. I was really lucky that my mum and dad, they came over in September and we went to Niagara Falls. And this is the cue. I would have a picture now of my mum and dad on the presentation. But yeah, they came over and I've had a really good time. But what else do I miss? I miss a Sunday roast. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what a Sunday roast is, it's almost like a Christmas dinner. So some kind of bird, a beef, turkey, something like that with all the trimmings. And we call it a Sunday roast because we have it every Sunday. Like literally, religiously, we have it every Sunday. And it's not really a thing here in Canada, and I miss it. I'm not going to cook a meal myself every Sunday because it's a big meal, right? And eat it myself. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to pay for it neither. So I do miss that. But more importantly, what do I miss the most? Chocolate. I really miss the chocolate. The chocolate here is awful. I do not like it. And I don't know why. I feel like I did Google it, and when I Googled it, I don't think they use real milk. I think it's powdered milk. So it just doesn't taste the same. So a couple of months ago, I went back to the UK for the first time, and what did I do? I stocked up on all of the chocolate, all of the sweets, because I've got a real big sweet tooth. So yeah, so that's what I miss about the UK. But what do I enjoy about Canada? I love the weather. I really, really enjoy the weather. Obviously, the summers here are great. Summer right now, everyone's happy. There's so much going on inside the city. Love it. But I also really like the winter. As I said before, Manchester, it rains all the time. So even though it gets really cold here, and I'm told that it's been a mild winter last year, so I could be in for a rocky road this winter coming. But I don't mind it. I like the fact that it doesn't rain. I like the fact that you can go out, you can dress up nice and warm, you can put a nice hat on, and you can still walk out and go out and enjoy the nature in the city. I do also really enjoy the nature side of things. So for me, I've recently just got a car, driving on the other side of the road. Oh, I'm doing it, and fingers crossed, no incidents as of yet. But I am enjoying it, and that's allowing me on the weekends to get out and get, a little bit more exercise and enjoy the actual nature side of things. So I'm really enjoying that. So moral of my story really today is I took a chance on myself. I really stepped out of my comfort zone, and I traveled across the world. I've never done it before. For me, this is outside of my comfort zone. I've never lived away from my parents before, as in a lot further than 30 miles. The other side of the world, or the other side of the pond, should I say. And here I am. So my story to you is I've really enjoyed it. And for me, that risk has paid off because I'm really enjoying Canada. And if you ever get an opportunity to travel or to even move to a different country, I would 100% say go for it. Thank you.
Well done. Have a seat. Okay. I don't know if I was being sold in the UK or Canada there. It's like, which country is this a sales pitch for? Okay, let me ask, Chris, what was the point of her story?
The point was taking a chance.
Okay.
And I'm going to add on to that. It really resonated with me because I've done that. Literally just, you know what? In order for me to do this, this is the condition that I require for this.
Yeah.
And it was literally pack up the car and off I went.
It's a relatable story.
Yeah.
Okay.
You went up.
All right. So it's going to be everyone's last day in Toronto after today. Okay, Rohan, how about you? What was the point?
Be open to change.
The what?
Be open to change.
Be open to change. Okay. So it's similar message, but a little different phrasing. All right, Dominic.
Find your Sunday roast.
Oh, I like that. It's very poetic. Find your Sunday roast. Okay, let's do a quick self-evaluation round. What did you do well?
I think I got my point across, so I was a little bit nervous that I wouldn't get my point across because I'll be honest, I didn't really cater for that, but obviously given the other bits of feedback, I kind of added that in towards the end, so I probably didn't practice that as much.
Okay.
I thought I was relatively enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm. Your goals on the form were you don't want to come across nervous, and you want to see if you're slow enough when you speak. How did you feel about those?
I think I was probably a little bit fast. I think I probably could have slowed down a little bit more.
Got it. How about the nervousness and the anxiety with the cameras and all the people here?
Yeah, it was definitely there.
Yeah? Okay.
I'm interested to see what everyone's take is on that.
Okay. A little anxious. Let's do a test on that. Raise your hand if you could tell she was nervous. Yeah? One person? Okay. You should be a public speaking coach because I couldn't tell. She looks pretty comfortable to me. Okay. And raise your hand if you thought she was going fast. Isn't that interesting? So you achieved most of your objective other than Chris.
I appreciate it.
You can convince him afterwards with What was it? Find your Sunday roast. Okay, so that was what went well. What was challenging?
I tried to engage with the audience, but I think I was moving around a little bit too fast.
You mean physically or just the content?
Both.
Okay, got it.
Like eye contact and moving around.
Who felt that way, that she was moving around too fast? Okay, a little bit, okay. So I would like you to try one more time, but pick a more serious topic. I want to see what you do if you're trying to get a specific point across. Okay. Is there anything you're passionate about that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Can you tell me the message first, just so I can look out for it?
To change the probate industry.
The what industry?
The probate industry.
Probate industry.
Yeah, bereavement.
I don't know what that is.
I can talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. Perfect topic. All right, bring it up one more time.
Okay, thank you. So today I'd like to talk to you about a process that is very near to my heart, and how we can try as a globe, as a country, and across the world, how we can try and enhance what the grieving, anybody grieving person goes through when someone dies. So when someone loses a loved one, so I'll take myself in this. I lost my grandma a few years back, and I hope that no one has had to lose anyone here, but if you have, I'm sorry to hear that. And we all know it's not a nice feeling. So whether it be a spouse, a parent, a child, whoever it may be, you're grieving, you're feeling so many different emotions, right? You can be angry, you can be sad. The last thing that you want to do is having to have that conversation with a company to say, my husband or my son has passed away. And the reality is, we have to do that. So when someone dies, and they die unexpectedly, 9 times out of 10, they've probably got a mortgage, or they've got a car on finance, or they've got a credit card, right? If you just name, top 5 things: car on finance, mortgage, phone contract, utility bill, Netflix account, whatever it may be, that person that's grieving has to call up to each and every one of those companies and say, my husband's passed away. And they're going to be feeling so emotional about that. But what can we do? Do they have to do that 5 times? Currently, yes. They have to ring up 5 times. And if it's 5 companies, if it was more, you have to do it more times. And you have to ring up and you have to be on the phone for maybe 15, 20 minutes? And we all know that it's longer than 10, 15 minutes. So what we want to do, the company that I work for, what we want to do is we want to change that industry, okay? And how are we going to do that? We want to provide a digitalized solution to do a one-stop notification. So you go online, you register the death of your loved one, and you do it once. You don't have to do it again. So you don't have to call up, you don't have to ring a call center, you don't have to speak to an agent that's not, have probably ever dealt with someone that's lost someone or not really got the time and the patience to speak to you. So that's what we want to do. We want to digitalize that solution and have it so that you only need to do that notification once to allow you to go away and to grieve and, deal with it in your own time and not have to deal with the financial side of things. Thank you.
Wow. Have a seat. How was that compared to the first one? Right? Because it had a point, it had an emotional punch to it. I knew exactly where you were going. And if you were to, I'm sure you can relate to this, if you're looking at it from a sales pitch perspective, you outlined the problem, you talked about the solution, what you do, and what the ultimate payoff is. And I love how when you said, imagine you have to call up every single one of those companies and you're on hold, I was imagining myself doing that. Was anyone else doing that? Right? That means you created imagery in my mind. The only thing I would change with that is the first half of it, a lot like I told Dominic, I felt like you were general with it. But if you said, imagine someone in your family passes away or your father passes away, whatever. and you're going through a lot, just paint me one single person's picture. And then at the end, you can say, there's thousands or millions of people who go through this every single day, and there's no solution for this. This is why we're working on X, Y, Z. So I don't know how vulnerable you want to be, but if you were to tell me the story of your grandmother passing away, if you did that start to finish, I would have related to it a lot more, but you also have to be emotionally ready for that kind of story.
Yeah.
So talk about one person's journey, use the word imagine, put me in there, and then the rest of your speech I thought was really, really good. Did anyone feel like she was too fast, too slow, too anything? No, right? The thing is, when you have a really good story, you're not dissecting her as a speaker anymore. You're not looking out for the vocal variation, the filler words, whatever, because the story is so impactful. So I thought that was really, really well done. Just focus on the imagery a bit more. Well done.
Okay.
Round of applause for our folks. And by the way, I'll share this story because I think it's relevant. When I was early on in my public speaking coaching career, I wanted validation so bad from my clients that, look, I can spot your filler word. You said there, and I would point them out just because I wanted validation. And I was doing a workshop once. There were about 40 people, and there was this woman right in the back. And she sat there by herself. There was no one next to her. And she's just sitting alone. And I'm thinking, should I bring her up? Should I get her to participate? I got distracted. Other people came up. We had an amazing time. We went away. The next week, I did the same workshop again. And that same woman came back, sat in the same exact spot in the back again. I said, okay, maybe she's a little shy. It takes her a little bit to open up. Let's give her time. She still didn't participate. So now I'm thinking, why is she showing up and not participating? Maybe she needs that extra little bit of push. So she came back the third time. So what I would do in my workshops is a lot like you saw in one of my workshops. I bring people to the front. I just give them a random topic. And I just say, just talk about this for a bit. Let's see how it goes. So I said, hey, you've been here a few times. I've seen you here before. Why don't you come up here and talk about something? And immediately I could tell her eyes were just shell-shocked. She did not want any part of it. So I'll give you an easy question. Here's your question. When's the last time you kissed someone? Because my mature mind at the time, that's the only topic that came to mind. So she slowly walks up, everyone's clapping, and it took her a minute and a half just to walk to the stage. I shook her hand, I sat back down, and I see her on stage in front of about 30 people, just staring at the ground like this. Now I'm looking at her, 10 seconds go by. 15 seconds go by, 30 seconds, a minute go by, nothing. She's just staring at the floor. Now people around me are looking at me like, hey man, you should go and say something, you should step in. And just when I'm about to get off my chair, she finally looks up and she says, well, my last kiss would have been to my grandma before she passed away. And then she sat back down. That was one sentence she said that day. It's been 6 years. I still remember that story. The reason I point that out is because I wasn't thinking about her filler words. I wasn't thinking about how long she took to talk. I wasn't thinking about her gestures. I wasn't even thinking about her storytelling structure. But she made me feel something in that moment. So when you're speaking up here, when you're trying to tell a story, your goal is to do what? Connect with the audience emotionally. She was able to do that in one single sentence. And since then, I've never forgotten storytelling and emotion. That's the most important thing in all public speaking. Everything else comes later. So that's why, Randall, for you, everything else is amazing. Work on the storytelling and the point. I think you'll be good. Okay? So on that note, let's take a bit of a break, get some water. I know it's kind of hot here, and then we got you and you to go up next. Okay? All right, folks, give yourself a round of applause. Any questions or whatever, feel free to come to me. I'm just going to jot down some notes so I can give you guys notes at the end. Please welcome Mr. Rohan.
Thank you. So I came in this morning, like I woke up, I was excited for this workshop, and I thought, I have a message that I want to talk about and I want to share. But as I went through my first call, I had a coaching call this morning, and it was the first call. I was like, okay, nothing too much. I'll start my day with that and see how it goes. After that call, I was just shook. I was like, okay, I'll probably have to just talk about this today. So Judith calls me up. He's like, he needs some help. He needs some coaching. So I asked, like I ask all of my clients, like, what's the first question I ask is, what's on your mind? I asked, what's on your mind, Judith? And after that, it was just 15 minutes of him speaking, explaining all of his life problems, saying how he's living paycheck to paycheck, how his family does not know any of his struggles. He starts working at 6 a.m., drives Uber, and then finishes his shift at like 12 a.m., working like a second job. And he's just like struggling. He's like, I cannot share this with anyone. I always like find myself like having no social support. And I said, okay, like how did you know that you want to reach out to me? He said, I was just listening to a podcast and someone was mentioning, I forgot the person who he was talking about. He said, like they said, it's very important if you get yourself a mentor or a coach. So I was like, okay, so that prompted you to reach out to me, and now you are here on this call. So I understood his problem. He was struggling. He was living paycheck to paycheck. He was living in a world where he felt like he was alone, and he had no one to reach out to for support. I heard his story, how he started off selling hair extensions, and he made a lot of money out of it. And then, like with how technology advanced, people started buying online, and then he started struggling with that, with sales. So he basically just went on and explained all about his story, about all of his struggles. So I asked him, okay, so what exactly do you need from me? Like what are you looking for over here? Like what would be your ideal future after this call? He said, I want you to go after this call being completely motivated and being able to take an action. So he said, like, can you please guide me? Can you please explain me, like, how do you drive change? What are some of the things that you can advise me upon? I said, okay, there are just two things that I want you to basically for me to understand about you. One, do you have an anchor in your life? It could be a thing, it could be a person, it could be an anchor basically that during the tough times you could reflect upon for support and have that belief within. It could be a person, it could be a parent, could be your wife, could be a husband. You look upon to them, and then they're the ones who give you that support and give you the belief that, tough times will pass through. So do you have an anchor? Second is, how do you set your goals? How do you go about life? When you start taking an action, I said, like, what's your approach with that? He said, I struggle with that. Like I some days I just feel like I can do a lot. Some days I feel like I cannot do anything. So I suggested, this is something that I read, and I said, like, I'll share it with you, and you let me know how it resonates with you. And he said, and then I said to him, it's the ABC goal setting method, where A is you'll set a goal, and you'll take action A when you feel the day that you have the most amount of energy, where you feel like you can do a lot more. So that's the day you'll try to do an action that's aligned with A. B, which would be most of your days, is where you will be taking an action when you're feeling normal. When you're feeling like, okay, like just a normal day, you can do, like, you just give you 100%, whatever it is. C is for days when you feel like you cannot do anything and you just want to show up and be part of that disciplined world. When you show up in that way and you just like, even if you just do the bare minimum out of that, the amount of positivity you feel in your mindset from that goes a long way. So he understood all of that, and that was really, really relevant, like for all of him. So after I understood all of that, then I asked him, what was your anchor? What was your social circle like? Like, what was your social energy? Where was it coming from? He was blank for like a couple of minutes. He was like, I cannot share anything with anyone at home. Then I asked him, okay, you say you drive Uber all day long. What makes you do that? He said, I love connecting with people. I said, so at the end you have that kind of need, that social connection that you really, really want to establish, right? And that's what you do when you drive an Uber. So I told him, like, for you to do that, it's very important for you to evaluate the relationships that you have in your life and find the right people that you can create a social circle with, and get that anchor going on. Because once you have an anchor in your life, you can achieve a lot more. And that's just the discussion that we had. And after that, he told me, this is the best that I've felt, like in weeks. and months. And he was so happy that he already scheduled another call with me as soon as we dropped the call. So I thought like maybe I'll just share that experience with all of you.
Well done. Done. Dude, keep you here for a quick second. All right. Pop quiz. Dominic, what was the message of his speech?
Have an anchor in your life.
Have an anchor. So that's pretty clear, right? And what was your takeaway?
That's that.
Have an anchor. So that it came across pretty clear. Did you notice how many times he repeated the word anchor? The more times you repeat it, the easier it is to remember. So if you have a message, hammer it down multiple times. So you did that well. Let's do self-evaluation. What went well?
Well, I think the message came across well.
Okay, good.
And I think like my topic, like I guess I was a little bit on the topic, but then it just like kind of deviated. So I'm like
I'm kind of on the topic is positive. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's
it. Okay, got it. And you didn't pass out with a sweat with the.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a big plus too.
It reminds me of Hangover 2, but did you die kind of scene, you know? Like we said, did you die? No. So I'm good.
All right. What was challenging or what could have been better?
I would say like I could structure a little bit better if I had prepared for it.
Okay.
And then like my tone, I feel like I was rushing a little bit at some part. Like I guess that's something that I feel.
Okay, rushing. So to rushing, better structure. You said something about tone.
Yeah. Like I feel like I was like picking up one tone and not having much variation.
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
let's test that out. All right, raise your hand if you thought it could have been better structured. Okay, that's true. Raise your hand if you thought he was rushing. Okay, and raise your hand if you thought it was like one note, one emotion the entire way through. Okay, so we have two of them are pretty correct. In my opinion, I thought you were going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I think you lost me at 30 seconds in. I think I blipped several times in there and I had to come back constantly. Also, Dominic, could you hear him okay?
I could.
Okay, maybe it's my ears or something. I couldn't really hear you a lot.
Okay.
Maybe because your voice is projecting this way and I'm a little bit to the side. I mean, in general, I'm having an issue. Maybe I'm just sitting too far away. But I feel like you could project a lot more with your voice too.
Okay.
So you came here and then the first thing you did with your hands was like this. And I could see your hands shaking like that. And you were a bit nervous at the start?
Not too much.
Then maybe adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right? So usually, and some people do it, some people don't, but when you come up here, you're excited, you're still shaking, right? If you hold yourself, you'll vibrate even more. So what I recommend people to do is when you come on in front of people, don't do this right away. So if you see me up on stage, my hands are usually to the side, and then later on I bring it up here. So maybe you were really excited, he's like, okay, so I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm seeing this. But also keep in mind, I have a public speaking coach's eye, not everyone. Did anyone else pick that up? Okay, so people do pick it up, right?
Yeah.
But if you were excited and people interpreted that as anxiety,
Yeah, that's true.
that could be a bad thing too. So keep that in mind. I love how you hammer down anchor. It's ironic that I'm saying that hammer down anchor. I like the repetition of the message there. However, because you were going so fast, I couldn't tell you what the story was about. I don't know can anyone know for sure what the story was about? No? No, artists? Throw your best guess.
As far as the story,
Yeah, what was the story about?
he's really good because whoever he was talking to felt comfortable talking to him about his whatever they couldn't get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cause at home or something like that.
Yeah.
And you were kind of his savior.
So there was a good storytelling structure there where you talked about someone who's paycheck to paycheck or something, and you coached them, I think, and now they're doing really well. That was so great pain there. You were the cure in that story. The resolution was great. There was a message. The only thing is because you were going at 1,000,000 miles an hour and I couldn't hear you, it was difficult to process that. So I'm going to challenge you. You know how we wrote down the structure just now? I want you to tell me that same story, but tell it to me in 60 seconds.
Okay.
A very condensed version. I'm only looking for the structure. By the end of it, everyone should be able to tell what happened where. Can we try that? Sure. Okay, so really summarized version, and if you can, a little bit louder. All right, go for it.
So I was speaking to one of my clients, and his problem was he was living paycheck to paycheck, and he did not have this sort of social circle that he really needed to give him the energy. And that prompted him to come to me for a coaching session, for him to look at how can we exactly work through that problem together. I asked him, what's on your mind? he gave me a long story about how some of his struggles are. And that led me to giving him some of the suggestions that how can he work through it. The first thing would be for him to find an anchor in his life, something that can instill support and a belief in him. Once he found out what his anchor is, he would be able to overcome some of the biggest challenges in his life.
Was that clear or not? So when you remove all the fluff, what happens? It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you this, when I was putting my TED Talk together, it was initially like 45 minutes long. And we had to remove everything. Like, no, this is the best part. And then we removed entire sections. So with your story, we removed 90% of it, and now I understand. What does that teach us?
Fluff.
Remove the fluff. So, and did we notice he was a little louder this time too?
Yeah.
Can we try this one more time? Just a tad bit louder. And I want you have to be uncomfortable in your head. If you're not uncomfortable, that means you're talking like you normally do. So really push yourself. If I don't see it, I'm just going to keep doing this, and you're going to do it over and over again, okay? All right? Okay, let's do it again. 3, 2, 1, boom.
So I was on a coaching call with one of the clients.
Louder.
And I asked him, what's on your mind?
Louder.
He said that he was facing a lot of problems, a lot of struggle, living paycheck to paycheck. And then he was telling me some of the struggles that he was facing. And then I asked him, okay, how can I help you with that? How can we work through it together? And then once I understood all of his problems, it all stemmed down to the fact that he did not have a strong anchor in his life. Once we worked through it, once we figured out that that's a point that he has to focus in his life, he was able to figure out that that's an action item for him that he really, really needs to take on. And that once he has a strong anchor, he'll be able to...
All right, pause here. Do we see a difference? So with you, when your volume is higher, I notice your pronunciation also becomes clearer. Did we notice that? Like all the words weren't mixed together. I could individually recognize each word. You were louder, less fluff. And I feel like because you were going higher energy, you were choosing your words more carefully. Was it less confusing this time? Right? The words were easier to understand. So I would say for you, just do the same thing as I recommended. Dominic, did I tell you to do that? Just baseline. No, Chris, I told you to do this. Baseline higher volume, because it seems like for you, it's an anchor to other things. You change that one thing for other things, or a domino to other things. You change that thing for other things fix themselves. So remove most of the stuff, clarify the message, louder, everything else improves all of them.
Perfect.
Okay, well done, my friend. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, last but not least, certainly. All right, come on up.
Hey guys, I'm Rahul. I'm going to speak to you about health, time, money. Do you really resonate with these three words at different phases of your life? It does to me. So, I'll give you a backstory, how I started thinking about these three words was like a couple of years back. I was meeting a couple of friends, drinking, and we started talking about, what, if I had this money at that time, I would have been sitting on, $100,000 today. Now, how did this start is when we were sitting for drinks, we were trying to remember our, university days. That time, we were just, not concentrating on studies, but then, we just wanted to have fun. We wasted a lot of time there. At the same time, we were compromising on our health for a bit just to have that fun with those late nights. Then, we were also spending money and not saving anything. Fast track, 5 years after, all of us started working. Some of them started saving. Now, with that saving of dollars, which is sitting on your bank account, what are you doing with that? Nothing. But then there was this guy who started investing. And with that investment, he started earning compounding interest with that saving. So what does this mean? So it's if you have $100 today, it's not going to be $100 10 months after. So you are looking at time value of money. So my conclusion here is start saving money, concentrate on your health. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Some piece of advice all of us could use right now, given this economy.
Yeah.
Okay. Rhiannon, what was the message?
To concentrate on your health and to save money.
Okay.
That's going on the journey.
Very clear, right? Wonderful. Ron?
Importance of investing.
Importance of investing. Okay. Gotcha. Let's do self-analysis. What went well?
I think message was quite clear about investing, health,
Okay.
and time.
Okay.
I'm just going to say what didn't go well.
That's okay.
Yeah. So what didn't go well is I felt the flow
Okay.
was a little off.
Okay. What else?
Yeah, I can just, probably there were a couple of fillers.
Okay. Did anyone care much for the fillers? Okay. So it's a minor thing, right? Okay. Can I ask you for your feedback real quick? What did you make of it?
I thought you had fantastic presence with the audience. You made eye contact with a lot of us. That was really strong. So,
Okay.
Okay. And Chris, anything to improve for him?
Not so much to improve. What I wanted to say that I liked a lot was the pauses.
Mm.
Able to give the phrase, allow me to process it, before you went on to this next thing. So I really enjoyed that.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to give you a quote that my coach gave me. He said, good public speakers are remembered, great public speakers are repeated. Meaning people will quote the things you say. They won't just say, oh, he's an amazing public speaker. They'll find the things from what you said. I feel like tomorrow I'm not going to remember anything of what you just said. Not because the message wasn't important, because I didn't really feel anything. And the message was very generic because I've heard it many, many times before. So what I would have liked with this message is tell me a unique story about how you learned this lesson and then phrase it in a way that I haven't heard it before. Because if you say save money, my dad's been telling me that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's not original, right?
Yeah.
And then I want to see this several times. So Rohan did this really well. He hammered it in multiple times. For you, it came right at the end. So you mentioned investment a little bit here and there. Let's try to rework this because I think your delivery is really good. You have great presence here. You pause really well. But if you're the best public speaker ever, but no one remembers you the next day, have you achieved your objective?
Yeah.
Right? So let's make you more memorable now. I'd like you to try that same story again. Think of the pain in that story. What was the problem? Can you tell me real quick?
So the pain was my friend regretted
Yeah.
that he didn't invest in this IPO of Netflix,
Yeah.
which was probably around $7 at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been sitting on, a couple of $100 today, looking at the stock price.
Okay. How can we dig into that further? Like, what was the consequence of that for him? What could he no longer do because of that issue?
So what caused this is because at that time he was saving money only to party, but not to invest. So he had money at the time to spend a couple of hours with his friends drinking. But he didn't think about, what is he missing out on. So he could have balanced it out at that time to, 30% I'm going to, put aside for my partying. But then the rest, 50 to 60% would be investing.
Let's pause for here. So the way you're telling it to me right now, it's a very logical sequence. And again, it's hard to remember the logic.
Yeah.
It's easier if you shift it to dialogue, like I mentioned to Dominic earlier, where what was he feeling in the situation? What was he saying to himself? What was he put that into dialogue? So instead of he could have made this much money, you'd say, He was thinking, oh my God, I could have made $100,000. I lost all that. Now it's just real because it sounds like actual dialogue. So tell me just the pain part again, but I want to hear all the dialogues in there. And this could be him thinking, him saying something to you, anything.
Okay.
Make it sound real, okay?
Yeah.
Try that.
So this happened on our, drinking table. This guy was thinking about, why the hell I didn't invest at that time. And he just banged his, beer mug on the table and he was like, you know what? By now, I would have been sitting on $200,000 and I lost that opportunity. So this is an opportunity loss for him. But at that time, he was way too naive. He just wanted to have fun.
Oh.
But you know what? We all learn from mistakes.
Okay, do that again. Rewind a little bit and then take a pause and go really quiet when you say that.
Okay, I even forgot. I was just
yeah, it's just making stuff up. I don't even know what I just said. So just talk about, he lost all this money, but you know what? This is what he learned. Then give me the message.
So at that time, he regretted and he was like, I lost all this money. But it's okay. He realized it now and we all learn from mistakes.
How'd that feel?
Yes.
Oh, better, right? Now, two things I'm seeing on your form. One, I'm self-conscious about my spoken English. Did anyone have an issue with the spoken English? Isn't that reassuring to hear? You said that several times and
Yes.
you haven't thought about that story. I don't think you have any issue with it.
Okay.
I think you sound fantastic. And I've seen this happen where we don't know why we don't feel confident in a situation, and then we grasp towards certain things. Oh, it must be my accent. It must be my English. And then we just sit on that belief. I feel like for you, English is not an issue. In fact, isn't he one of the more enthusiastic people we've seen lately? Very energetic, very enthusiastic. I love your energy. I just like to see more of a point in the story and more into digging more into the pain.
Okay.
I'm going to have everyone go one more time and you'll see what I mean. I wouldn't be concerned too much about the delivery.
Okay.
Just the storytelling. And the reason I'm telling you this is you can graduate from public speaking to storytelling. Storytelling is a much harder skill set, okay? Well done, my friend. Have
Thank
a seat.
you.
I'll give you more tips as well.
Thank you.
Give him a round of applause, folks. All right. Everyone's gone, right? Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a leg up. My belief is that if we learn something, it should change our behavior in some way. If you come here and I give you all these tips and you go and you do your next seminar exactly like you've always done it, we haven't changed anything. So I'm going to give you about 2 to 5 minutes to write down a quick speech. And I don't want you to write like detail, just to, this is what happened, this was the problem, this is what fixed it, this is the message. Write that down. And I just want you to implement whatever feedback you received today. So for you, vocal variation, for you as well, vocal variation and structure, whatever feedback you got, just work on that. But I would recommend no more than 2 things. And pick a story that you know really well. Don't invent a new story right now. Talk about the 3 things that you learned today so far from everyone's session. Okay, so you can start by, so today I learned XYZ, these are the 3 things and how you're feeling about it. Bonus, have a message at the end. That's a bonus.
Hello. Okay, so today I want to talk about the 3 things that I've learned today in our training session. The first thing that I'd like to talk about, I'm not as camera shy as I thought I'd be, and that's actually really nice. It's a nice feeling. Yes, I'm still a little bit nervous, but I feel like everyone is in exactly the same boat, right? I feel like everyone's here for the same purpose, and what I'm starting to realize is that the more public speaking that I do and the more people that I engage with is that we're, again, all in that same boat. We're all a little bit nervous. And the reality is 99% of the people are here to support you. You're here supporting me and I'm here to support you. So I would say, yeah, I've definitely learned that today, that people are here to support each other. I'm not as camera shy. And my third point is storytelling. So although I'm not really going to be saying a story right now, but for me, it's around that structure. So my point 1, my point 2, and point 3. But really, for me, the biggest thing that I've learned today is that we're all here to support each other. We're all in the same boat. And the reality is people on the outside world are exactly the same. Thank you.
All right. Have a seat, have a seat. So our goal was to message.
Yeah, and the ending.
The ending, you said?
Yeah, the point. The
Point, okay. What was the point? Chris? Support each other, support each other. Okay, so I guess the message landed. Well done, well done. Now, see, I'm going to give each one of you more feedback on this talk too afterwards. Just keep that in mind. Okay, and then let's bring on Rahul next. Come on up, Rahul.
What did I learn in this today's session? First thing, be confident about yourself. When I filled up the form, I was like, you know what? I'm not confident enough. I have some issues delivering my messages to the audience. But this was all in my head. After speaking to you guys, presenting myself, being in this community, I've started to learn that no matter what, just believe in yourself. Be around people who support you. Thank you.
Nice and short, nice and short. I forgot to ask you, what was your goal?
Sorry?
What was the goal for this presentation? What were you working on?
Storytelling.
Okay.
And trying to dig into,
Yeah.
but not too much, is because, I just want to deliver that message, because if I dig in too much,
Yeah.
then people will start going into that rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, I think the way you spoke was fantastic and you kept it brief. And I hope by the end of today, if there's one belief you can let go of, is that your English is a problem.
Okay.
It's not.
Yes.
Obviously.
Thank you.
Well done, well done. Okay, all right, give it up for Chris.
Okay. The two biggest takeaways that I got from today is vulnerability while implementing range when I'm speaking. The vulnerability aspect is required to be able to connect. And because I can tell stories, and as a law enforcement officer where we often articulate and talk about incidents so that we can recall and then perhaps testify in court, at times we have to be vulnerable. But I also have to be able to connect with the people that are in the courtroom. I have to be able to connect with other people, other officers that might be on the call as well. But in addition to that, one of the biggest things that people accuse law enforcement officers of is that we're not emotional enough. We're like robots. So something that will help the emotional aspect is implementing that range in the voice. Whether it's getting louder when we get excited, or perhaps when we want to address something very serious, as we tend to lower our voice. So those are the two biggest takeaways that I need to work on, is the vulnerability and the implementation of range in my vocal range. Thank you.
Well done. All right, let's give it up for Iris.
Okay, so when I got here earlier this evening, I was not sure what to expect. I did not have I had a topic, but I didn't have a speech prepared. So as I heard Dominic doing his speech, I realized how the delta between himself and myself, how wide he was. But then after I came up here on stage, I think I bombed it. It was not the greatest, but I had amazing feedback. And then I took that feedback and I thought to myself, you know what, let's just be methodical about it and implement the feedback. And as I was getting the feedback and as I was thinking of everything that I had said, I realized, it's not too bad. It's just a matter of, practicing, and my confidence went a little bit up. It's not where it's supposed to be because, it would only come with practice. And that's pretty much what I got from it. So just make sure I remember the structure. Make sure that I work on my voice and intonation a little bit better. But my focus is just the structure. So thanks for that. And I'll try to implement it every single time I have the opportunity to speak.
That was good range in that too, compared to the last one.
Oh, was it?
Very good, very good. Round of applause for him. All right, let's give up for a round. Rohan.
the quality of talk does not matter if there is no story behind it. That's my biggest takeaway from this session that we had with Yasser. I came into this workshop knowing that I'll be going out learning a lot more, and with a lot more knowledge that I can start applying right away with the people that I interact with. And I'm proud to say that that's something that I not only did I achieve that, and which is something that I'll be applying, but I also learned something about myself. I learned that being able to speak in front of a lot more people and being in front of a camera is not something that's very intimidating. It's something that you can overcome very easily. It's just that you have to believe in what you're talking about, and as long as you have a story that you can connect the audience with, everything's going to be perfect. So that's my takeaway.
Very emotional. I like that. Thank you very much. What was the goal? I forgot to ask.
Just like have a good structure, I guess.
Clear structure?
That's what my...
Point 1, point 2, point 3?
That's what I was struggling with initially.
Well, you got that down. And you were louder too right now, by the way.
I was trying to do that as well, so we'll see.
The thing is, you struggle with the same thing I struggle with. I talk too fast, and I used to be very quiet, so I can see a lot of myself in you. Just give it time.
Perfect.
You're good.
Try it out.
Well
Thank
done.
you so much.
Well done.
Appreciate it.
And then, who are we missing? Have you done everybody?
Thank you so much for all the...
Everybody, right? Okay, cool. So we'll end with a quick Q&A. I'm just going to plop myself down in front of you, because even though we've learned these things about ourselves and behavior, every one of you have different things that you do in your life. Maybe you're doing a presentation, maybe you have a interview coming up. So I want to be able to help you in your specific situation. And particularly if you have any questions around the beliefs or mindsets, I feel like most people know they need the skill set, but it's a mindset that holds them back. So for me, I had this belief that I'm not good enough and I don't have enough experience, because when I was coaching people, I was 22 and my average client was a VP. And every single meeting I went to, I was so scared, because I thought they're gonna find out I'm 22 years old and I'm not a VP, and holy crap, what am I gonna do? So I'll share a story with you. One of the first clients I ever worked with, he was a VP of some technology company, and funny enough, it was $300 million company as well. I don't know why that number is coming today. But he got on a call with me, and he said, hey, Yasser, I love your speech at Toastmasters. Come and help me out. I said, but you want to pay me for this? Like, yeah, I'll pay you. Okay, great. And I thought of the biggest number I could find. I said, I'm going to charge you $50. I said, done, let's do it. So I got on a call with him, and I feel like he's paid me $50,000. I had so much pressure on me. And I'm trying to prove myself. I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I help him with? So I get on a call with him, and he says, Yasser, I just want to speak in meetings. I want to feel more confident. Whatever tips you have, that's good. I said, great. So what I usually do with people is I get them to talk about something on the spot, a lot like we do in the membership, and I just evaluate how they speak. So I got the VP to speak, and I would ask him questions like, if you were to get promoted, what would you do? If you were to pick one weakness you have, what's that weakness? And he would give me these answers. But the more he was answering, I realized, it sounds like he's bullshitting. It sounds like he's making up these answers. Why would he make up these answers? And I didn't know how to help him. So I just said, hey, out of curiosity, if you became the CEO tomorrow, is that what you would do? Oh, no, I'm just making it up. Like, okay, interesting. I didn't know how to help him. So I said, okay, what made you make it up? Well, I didn't really know the answer to it, so I had to say something. Okay, that makes sense. Do you do this anywhere else? Yeah, I do it at work all the time. If someone asks me a question, I don't know the answer, I make it up. Now I'm listening to this, I'm like, should you be making things up at work? So then I ask, what kind of situations? Well, let's say I'm speaking to the executive team and they ask me about a project and I don't know the deadline, I'll just make something up. I'm thinking, okay, I better stay on my line here. I don't know what this guy's work is like. So the only thing that came to mind was curiosity. And I just said, is it better to make something up or just tell them you don't know? And when I said that, he just went quiet for 30 seconds. And my inner imposter syndrome is saying, you blew it. Who told you to say anything? You can't say anything to a VP. Just shut up and coach him. That's all you had to do. And then eventually he says, you know what? I've never really thought about that before. Now that I think of it, I've been doing this since I was a kid, because when I was a kid and I would not have the answer, my mom would smack me across the face. So I would have to have an answer. So I learned to make things up. And now I'm telling my team things that are not true just to save my ass. And my team does the same thing with me. And then he said, well, Yasser, you've really helped me here. Let's continue. So we worked together for about 3.5 months. He became one of my best clients. And then months later, I went back to him and said, hey, when I started, I was really insecure. I was so terrified of working with you. Why did you work with me? I didn't have the experience. I was young. I've never worked with a VP before. What could I possibly have to add value to you? And he said, I didn't pay for your experience. I paid for your perspective. And it really stood out to me because he told me that every single person has a different perspective to the same solution. And people in his team cannot have an outside view. So from then on, I realized it's not my experience, my certifications, or anything that's my competitive advantage. It's just what I think about certain things, right? So for you, when you go out into the world, you will have situations when you're talking to a client, talking to a boss, you feel imposter syndrome. Maybe you're making content, you're like, I shouldn't be talking about this. But just keep it in mind, it's your perspective that can add to it. So I'm hoping with this Q&A, whatever questions you have, I might not have the answers, but I may be able to give you perspective that helps out. Is that okay? Yeah. Anything that comes to mind? How about we start with you?
So when you go into a meeting and you don't know the solutions, or someone comes in and gives you a question that you don't know the answer to,
Yeah.
how do you come up with that?
Answer out.
I'll tell you what not to do. Don't make it up. I've been on the receiving end of making it up, and then you don't want to lose trust, because the moment they can tell you're making it up, you lose trust immediately, and then they won't trust anything else you say. But if you say, hey, I don't know, let me figure that out, all of a sudden they have respect for you, because now they know, okay, Yasser's a stand-up guy. If he doesn't know the answer, he'll just tell me. And then in the future, that will affect your reputation. So for me, I'll give you an example. I was invited, I can't say the name of the entity, but a really big organization, and one of their executives had a stutter who would constantly get stuck on it, but they invited me over to be a public speaking coach. And I flew out there to coach him. So when he was speaking, he was amazing. He was really good. But the only thing was he kept stuttering. So I tried a couple of techniques on him, and it didn't really work. It wasn't having the dedicated impact. So I said, I think you need a speech therapist. I don't think you need a public speaking coach. He's like, no, Yasser, help me out. I tried more things, but it was out of my domain. So I said, listen, instead of me wasting the next week of your life, having you try something that doesn't work and then it shakes up your confidence, I think you should go to a speech coach instead. He was very disappointed in that moment because he had paid for me to come all the way up here. But then the following week, he said, hey, turns out it's actually a mental condition. That's why it's done. So in the moment, I felt terrible telling him that, but long term, I'm glad I did, and he's actually recommended me business since. So long story short, be honest. Even if it makes you look bad in the moment, it will serve you well in the long term. Hopefully that helps. Anything else?
Not for now.
Okay.
With a full yes.
Brandon, let's go to you.
And two.
Oh, go for it.
So first one, so I tend to have a bit of a mental block when, a bit opposite to you, Chris, where it's over a certain amount of people.
Okay.
So like as soon as it gets into double digits of like people.
Your mind is counting.
Yeah.
11, 10.
And that's literally like a mental block that I have.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to act
In person or?
in person.
Okay, so if there are 9 people, you're okay.
Yeah.
One more person walks to the door, all of a sudden your heart.
Almost, yeah. I mean, not like bang on.
Okay.
As soon as it hits 10, but as soon as it's like in like the teens, I'm like, all right, okay, this is a large audience.
Yeah.
Just have this mental block.
Walk me through the difference in your mind. So compared to today, we have, 10 people. It's not too bad for you, I hope. Let's say you had 20, 30 people. What would be different about what's happening in your head?
For me, it's just there's too many eyes on me, and
Okay.
maybe my focus is I'm nervous or I'm conscious that they're judging me for the way I look, the way I speak, the way I walk around the room.
Yeah.
And or then if you've got one, and I know you're always going to get it where you've got one person maybe that's not looking, and then you've got a couple of people that are really engaged,
Yeah.
and then a few people like that are maybe talking to each other in secret.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just seem to have a bit of a mental block.
Okay. I'm going to give you a really weird analogy. You're going to have to give me a minute, but this is what helped me because I had the same exact issue, okay? Let me just borrow this bottle real quick. Actually, I'll get this pen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to toss this, okay? And when it hits its peak in the air, I just want you to say peak And when it goes back in my hand, I want you to say touch. So touch as peak, touch, peak. I'm going to keep doing it. That's all you have to do. We're going to do it for about 30 seconds. It's going to sound weird. Just note how high it goes, and when it goes back down, touch, peak, touch. Okay?
Yeah.
Ready?
Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch.
I didn't touch it.
Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch. Peak, touch.
Now only the peak, okay? Just call it out right at the top.
Peak. Peak. Peak.
Okay, pause for a second. How much were you thinking about anything else in that moment? Nothing whatsoever, right? You were so focused on me tossing this and judging the peak that all of the other thoughts in your head subsided. This is the power of focus. It's a very learned skill, it's an advanced one, but if you can learn on stage to be so focused on one single thing, whether it's your speech, whether it's a certain person in the audience, whether it's your slides, everything else is completely shut down. When you're on stage, I imagine you're a little scattered. You're worrying about, okay, this person walked in, this person looking at their phone, what am I doing with my slides? And then your mind is super, super conscious. So how can you give it one narrow thing to focus on? For me, what really helps is when I'm speaking, I become extremely conscious of every word coming out of your mouth. So try just saying every letter of your full name and just think of the next letter and just say it out loud. Just try doing that and just be hyper aware of it.
To say it.
Every letter, just say it one at a time and be very aware of your mouth movement every time the letter comes out.
R, H, I, A, N, N, O, N.
Okay, pause. Can you see how your only focus is on the next letter and how your mouth moves?
Yeah.
When you're on stage and you do that exact same thing, the same effect happens. For the first 10 seconds, you'll be worried, but then okay, let me focus on my words. Everything else completely disappears. I learned this from a Olympic what's it called? Olympic psychiatrist, whatever you call them. A lot of Olympians would train for years, and right when they have to perform, they would start thinking about, I hope I win. Oh, he's bigger than me, he's stretching. And then they get completely lost, and then they lose, not because of a lack of skill set, but because of a lack of focus. Yeah. So for you here, how can I remove the distraction and focus on one thing? Try that exercise. When someone told me this, I was like, this sounds too simple. And I tried it, I was like, holy crap, this is our superpower. So that's answer number one. You had another question?
Yes. So obviously I do the weekly calls.
Yeah.
For me, I don't really have that much exposure now because my role has changed. I don't have as much exposure to the public speaking. So
Yeah.
I saw this, I jumped at it straight away.
Yeah.
Like, what would be a recommendation or to get more involved? Like, is there any, I don't know, other forums, other things that you can try and do to just kind of get yourself out there and expose yourself to public speaking?
Is the goal to get better at the skill or to get better in front of an audience?
Well, both. But for
Okay.
me, it's practice. It's never going to be perfect, but practice makes you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. I want more practice to feel more comfortable.
Okay. In order to do practice, you don't need to be in front of a live audience. So if you look at any keynote speaker, 99% of the rehearsal happens in the locker room or their house. And then the main one happens on stage. So like you're already part of my membership, just continue practicing the skill and the stories there. But if you want to overcome your anxiety or fear, you want to replicate that as close to the real situation as possible. So right now, the cameras, that's an elevated anxiety compared to your normal situations, right? The next thing you might do is Dominic joined stand-up comedy, try that out, which I recommend most people try it out. It's the scariest thing you'll ever do. But once you've done that, it's pretty hard to be scared of anything else. Because when you make a joke and no one laughs, it pierces through your heart like nothing else. So try an improv class, something like that. Or a local Toastmasters club would also help. The goal is you're trying to do exposure therapy. How can I expose myself to what I'm scared of more and more and more till it goes away?
Yeah.
It will never go away completely, but you'll numb it out enough time. So for you, it's just volume, volume, volume. Volume of skill, volume of exposure.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
No, I don't know that I have many questions. I was just curious to know how I can get better at storytelling,
Yeah.
structure, being articulate. Yeah, that's.
For YouTube or just in general?
I think if I'm better at it in general, it will flow down into YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to say for YouTube because I think it's outside of that. I think I would.
What are the most immediate things in your life where you could implement storytelling?
Talking to my family.
Okay.
Talking to people at work, but most of my family, I would think of friends and family.
Okay. Because I want to give you an incentive. For me, the incentive was I hired a sales coach, and he said if you implement storytelling into your business and your sales calls, your revenue is going to skyrocket. Because I was literally walking into the numbers, you invest this much, you get this much, and they still weren't buying. And when I implemented storytelling in there, it completely changed my business. So, are you incentivized to tell your family and friends stories often?
Emotionally.
Okay. So what I would do is think about 5 topics, or start with 1, and just follow the structure that I gave you today, and come up with one single story, and see how that story lands. I would like you to try it on YouTube first, just because you can see the response in the story really quickly, or maybe you have an Instagram, wherever it might be. If you look at some of my content on Instagram, I have a lot of 60-second stories where you'll see the same thing: problem, cure, solution. This is what you should do. Try that 60-second story, and then you can always expand on it. So for example, with Rohan today, we took out all the fluff. 1 minute, the story was still intact. Then you can add the layers. So have 5 stories like that, just bare bones version, then expand them into YouTube videos and see how that goes. And FYI, I've done 3-hour trainings that's almost entirely story, problem, this is the technique I used to fix it, and then we go into a breakout exercise, and then next story, next technique, next breakout exercise. So you can do it infinitely as long as you got the stories.
Thank you. The second question I have, I don't know if it's a question, but more so looking for feedback.
Yeah.
Around using story and emotion for sales.
Yeah.
Selling. In my experience, it's good to close. I'm going too deep into this, but it's good to close the deal from a sales perspective. But every single time, or most of the time that I've bought from a good salesman who was good with emotions and all that, the fulfillment side, I've been disappointed.
Yeah.
Right? And in my conscience or subconscious, I don't want to be that guy who sells with emotions and logic. Emotions, I'd rather sell with logic. But people say, I don't know if it's true or not, but people say that, you sell with emotions. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so what's that saying? People buy with emotion and then they justify it with logic. They'll buy the $1,500 iPhone every year. Oh, it actually has a pretty good camera. I'm glad I bought it, right? But no one needed that.
Exactly.
The distinction here is whether you are using it to manipulate. And if you can tell he's telling me a sob story to sell me a product, then you lose trust with him right away. I try to tell them a story based off of a client who's very similar to them. And I say, I've done it for them. It worked out really well. And I think if you and I work together, we might achieve something similar. I won't say, look at what we did with them. It's amazing. He sold a $300 million company. Work with me. I'll do the same thing for you. Now I can tell. He's using it as a tactic. So how can you make them see themselves in you and your product? So for me, in every single sales call, I have at least one story that say, you know what, this might give you some comfort. Can I just tell you about a client that I work with a similar story? Get their permission. Okay. He had this, and this is a lot like your situation, right? Yeah, and then we had them do this, and now they're here. Now, I'm not saying this might happen for you, but we have done this before, so I'm reasonably confident we can do this. And the way I say it, it sounds a little bit more believable than sounding like a snake oil salesman.
Yeah, to add to that, it's getting to the point where I don't want to have, in my, let's call it sales flow, I don't want to have any type of sales. I want the person to be sold before they talk to me.
Yeah.
AKA spend more time on content marketing.
And VSLs and all that.
Yeah. So that I don't have to, if you like it, either it or me, then let's how I'm gonna call it at a point of time, you're gonna be a sales call or be a order taking call.
Yeah.
Because it's always prior to that.
The frame is different, right?
Exactly. And I'm thinking, is it the right approach or is it because I've been traumatized for the past couple of
This would turn more into a business question where do you want to spend more time convincing them on the sales call, or do you rather they come already nurtured to the call? But you know this, nurturing is much harder than just convincing, right? So it depends on where you want to do the storytelling. If you want to do it in the VSL before you get people on the call, sure, do that too. I'll give you a quick example. Hopefully this helps you. I had the same B2B presentation that I was doing, which is why your content was relevant to me, by the way. We just started doing B2B. And one of them did not have any stories in it because we were pitching to a tech company. As in, these people are logical, they want to know the numbers. And we pitched them and they said, yeah, sounds great, very good, we'll let you know. Never heard back.
Yeah.
The I want to think about it objection. I did the same exact thing, but I included stories of people from my membership. So Rana, just to give you an example, the membership that we have, I'm doing the same thing for B2B. And I gave some of the examples of the results our members have gotten. One of the people became a stand-up comedian. Some of them are giving big speeches on stages. So I gave those stories as examples. And when I got the follow-up email, those are the stories they quoted of why they wanted a second call. Because I learned that all of the logical bits they will forget. The specific stories and transformations, they will not forget that. So you're not just telling them a story to get them to buy, you're telling them a story to give them ammunition to remember themselves and tell other people.
I like it. Super.
Right? Just remember, stories are easy to remember. And that's beneficial in all market.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Something that I've been struggling with quite a bit is the introduction.
Okay.
Whenever I start a lesson or a presentation. So that's why I typically start off with a story, but sometimes the story is not relevant.
Got it.
And where I struggle with the introduction is talking about myself, because people will usually start with, hi, my name is Chris.
Yeah.
This is what I've done. Here's a training, etc.
Right.
Not really comfortable doing that.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find another way or another approach of how could I introduce if a story wasn't relevant to break that ice.
So currently, how do you introduce yourself? Do you just say, hi, my name is this, or?
Yeah, I will really breeze over it fast.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Chris. What we're going to talk about,
Yeah.
and I don't really even talk about my background or anything, and I may inject it later,
Yeah.
but I just find it very uncomfortable
Yeah.
talking about my qualifications, and it's lengthy. I just don't like talking about it.
I've learned that if they trust the messenger,
Yeah.
they're more likely to trust the message. So if I said, buy Tesla stock, you might buy or might not. If Elon Musk said it, you're much more likely to buy it.
Right.
The message is the same, but the messenger is very different. So sometimes people need to know about who they're getting the advice from before they get it. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a friend of mine who's been telling me to go vegan for 4 years. Every day. Veganism is amazing. I have so much stamina on this, that. I'm like, not in a million years am I ever going to go vegan. He's telling me every single day. And then one day, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And I keep running out of stamina. I'm getting tired. I don't know what to do. And one of the people I met, he said, you know what? I had that exact same issue. I joined as a beginner. I was running out of stamina. I'm much bigger than these guys, but I would tap out because I was out of gas. And then my friend recommended going vegan. I tried that for a month and it completely changed my stamina. You want to guess what I did when I came back home? So the next month, you know what? Let me try going vegan. I tried that for a month. A month turned into 2 years. And eventually I said, you know what? I want some fried chicken. So I hopped off of it. But I tried it. And then my friend who finally found out said, why the hell did you go vegan? I've been telling you for 4 years. Like, well, because you never told me a story. I never trusted you. You never told me what happened to you with it. So if you started your seminars and training by telling us a little bit about why you got into this, why is it so personal to you, people can have an emotional bond with you, do you think they will then trust and implement what you have to say more compared to before?
Yeah.
So again, it's that vulnerability that you talked about, right? Do you have a story around this of why you got into it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
The challenge in our industry is we have people there that don't want to be there. So
trust me, in mine too. Believe me.
Right. So it's kind of trying to convince them why this is important.
So you know what I would do? I would say that right at the top. So when I attended my first self-defense seminar, I got to tell you, I didn't want to be there. I don't think I need it, whatever the objection is. Say that as if you felt it, because now you're immediately owning the objection, you're controlling the narrative around it, and then they can't say in their head, well, I don't want to be here, because you've already brought that up and you made it relatable.
Right.
So you see how, and this is sales 101, where whatever you know they're going to have an issue with, bring that up yourself. So for me, when I'm working with clients, usually at the top of the call, I'll say, listen, I'll tell you this right now. I'm going to be the most expensive person you'll ever work with. It's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to give you feedback you're not going to like. But if we work together, I'll get you to where you want to go. Do you still want to continue? You know what they'll say? Yeah. And at the end, they can't say, well, this is a lot of work, this is too much. I told them already. So with you, start with that, make the introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself that gets us emotionally involved, and then go in. I guarantee you'll have much more involved people.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And finishing us off, go for it.
So I do want to know, how do you connect or, put a flow to your, the conversations that you have with anybody, right?
Okay.
So sometimes I do struggle with the current situations, or, and when I see my friends, they are like, they are quick on their feet to think about it and speak to the other person. So, I feel that, they try and build a connection way too quickly when I compare it to myself. So it was like, how can I work on that?
I wanted to make sure I understand your question. So when you're in a conversation, they're able to chime in much faster than you are?
Yes.
Do you find that you have trouble organizing your thoughts when you speak?
Yeah.
Do you go in circles when you talk, or you can't get, okay.
Yeah.
This is something that, Rhiannon, you can probably speak to. We do something in our membership called Point, Reason, Point.
Okay.
Which is, we have a lot of things in our head, but we don't know how to streamline them when they come out, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you a really good example. And you'll notice this pattern with my answers too. I always give you an example because I know you'll remember it. I went to do you know Alex Hormozi? So I went to his workshop. It's a very expensive workshop. And and people paid a lot of money to be there, and they get one question to ask this big entrepreneur, right? So one guy finally gets his turn and said, Alex, so I had this question, like, I've been running a business, and business is hard, and we're trying to run it, and my wife, she's pregnant right now, we've got a kid on the way, and we're really trying to think about our next strategy, and I'm just thinking, where are you going with, what is the question? You're just airing out all your thoughts. And by the end of his question, the person on stage said, can you tell me your question? So what was happening was he was verbalizing his thoughts, hoping the other person would listen to his thoughts, find the question, and then somehow also answer the question. So a lot of times what we do is, I did this too, we verbalize our thoughts before we know what we're talking about. And I imagine to some degree this happening with you. So here's a format that you can use that can help you with that. If you want to contribute to a conversation, start with your point. What are you trying to say? So let's say, ask me a random question, like any question.
How's the summer going?
Okay, great. Here's a bad answer. Yeah, there's so many things I've done in my summer. I'm thinking of going on vacation. I'm doing some public speaking workshops, making a lot of content. Yeah, what else am I doing? A lot of things all over the place, right? Now I'm going to restructure it. I'm going to make a point. I'm going to tell you a reason, and I'm going to make the point again. My summer is going absolutely amazing for one specific reason. My girlfriend's grandparents came from Vietnam to visit. Now, they're 80 years old, they're Vietnamese, they don't speak a word of English. And I had to somehow connect with them for the first time and get their approval. They came, they stayed for a month, and without speaking a single word to them, we had an amazing bond. They were really happy. We took them all around Toronto. They were lovely. And before they came, they had some reservations about Yasser being from Pakistan, and is he Muslim, and what's he like? We don't know. We want our granddaughter to be around him. So when they came, we had an amazing experience. They went back, and they're really happy that I'm dating their granddaughter. So for me, that was the biggest highlight of my summer. Was my answer clear? Yeah. What was my answer?
It is going great. And what you've been doing so far.
Yeah.
And how you've been hosting your girlfriend's grandparents.
Exactly. So clear point, answered you right away, expanded on the point, and then at the end, I repeated the point. So if I'm going into an interview, if I'm doing a press, and if I'm training clients, literally these three words, point, reason, point, or point, story, point, point, example, point. And you'll find people are like, how are you able to articulate your thoughts so easily? Because I've done it for 10 years. 3 words. So in the future, when you're thinking, what should I say? How should I say it? Point, reason, point. And Arlen, for you, why did I call you Arlen? We have Arlen in the membership. I keep confusing him for him. This is what I do in my podcast too. So if someone's interviewing me on a podcast, I know you do this for your YouTube channel. Someone asks me a question, I answer the question, provide a story, and I wrap it up with a bow at the end as well. Does that help? And by the way, this takes a lot of training. So I hate doing this, but one thing we do in our membership is we have a Zoom membership where every week, twice a week, you jump on, you practice your public speaking. We get you to pick a topic and you just point over and over again. Like Rhiannon, you've done it a bunch of times. How long did it take for you to?
It's wild, but yeah, I got there.
Yeah, she can speak about anything for an hour. If I put her on stage, point this for a whole hour, she'll be able to do, right? Does that help?
Yes.
Right? Any other questions, folks? I want to make sure I'm not holding you hostage here. How are we feeling? Yes.
I asked a question about the practice. I think that was your question.
Yeah.
What was the answer to her? Oh yeah, you said there's no need to be in public.
Yeah.
She could just practice, or I could just practice solo essentially.
Yeah.
And is it a matter of having a structure and practicing out loud in a room or whatever?
100%. The best analogy I like to give is the way you work out for public speaking is the same you would work out for your gym. If you wanted to get in shape, how many times a week would you go to the gym? How many times would you think about your diet? Probably very often. But when I talk to people who say, oh, I want to be an amazing public speaker, and I'll say, how often do you work on it? Oh, the one presentation I do all year.
But there's an extra component which is public.
Yeah.
That changes everything for a lot of people. You can be, I think you touched on it, you can be the most amazing person in front of the mirror, speaker in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
But when you get, somewhere you just, like out.
Yeah, so there's two different things there. We're talking about skill set, and then we're talking about your ability to handle pressure. So there's some people who played piano on stage before who have no issue with public speaking because they've been on stage before, right? So I'll have some people come and say, Yasser, teach me how to speak without anxiety. And I want to learn the public speaking skill set. And I'll say, you don't need a skill set. You're an amazing public speaker. You just need more stage time.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get on stage, a lot like you, Rhiannon, when you came here, you had the added element of extra cameras. Maybe before you thought, oh, I'd be so nervous. But now you've done it, like, it's not actually that bad. I'll give you a really intense case. I had a founder in the UK, big crypto company. He would always send some employee to talk about his project on stage. He would never go on stage himself. So there was an event in Dubai, Blockchain Summit 2020 something. And they only allowed the owner of the company to present. And there were 12,000 people. So he said, Yasser, I want to avoid this, but I have to do this one. Can you just train me? I'm a tech person. I don't want to do this. This is what I did with him. We had his pitch ready. Between the day he worked with me to the day of his pitch, I got on a call with him every single day. And for 1 hour, I would just have him say it out loud, start to finish. By day 4, he said, man, how many more days are we going to do this? I said, 26 more days. By the time he stepped on stage, it just came out like it was, when you say your ABCs, you don't think about the next letter, you just know it. He said, I didn't have to think about it, automatically just came out. So with that example, I realized even if you're someone who's very anxious, but you practiced it so much that it's ingrained in you, it overshadowed any anxiety that you might have.
Cool, thank you.
Helps? Go ahead. All right, folks, let's wrap it up a little bit today. I really want to thank you for being here. This is a new initiative that I'm trying. Hopefully you know I don't make a profit out of this. It's like we're just paying for the venue and the camera, but my goal here is you have a good experience. Hopefully you've had some sort of change in your life and you tell other people come and join, and we can create some sort of a community in Toronto where we can do this weekly, monthly, whatever. And I can show people on social media how much this kind of work can change their life, because I know it changed mine, and I'm excited to see what it does for all of you. I will be checking up on you, by the way, just to make sure, hey, how's your variation? You're still doing it or not, right? So if you could, for me, just spread the love, and if there's anywhere else I can help you, please let me know as well, okay? Give yourselves a round of applause, folks. Thank you so much for being here.